Ha, ha, I finally put Shadowhawk in his place. Hell and happy Sunday. Welcome to the 4 o'clock Shadow Clock. No,
That's
and
so funny.
the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Radak.
Just made it. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Jason.
Oh, you're
Hey,
welcome,
Kyle.
my
Good to see
friend.
you again.
Oh well,
Kyle.
Kyle's gonna be popping in here in a minute. That's
Oh, that's
the
not Kyle. Hi,
Shadowhawk.
Shadowhawk.
I'm
I'm so
sure.
sorry. I was
That's
expecting
okay.
Kyle.
I was like,
Sorry
well,
What
about
have we
that.
got in the
Kyle.
background? Is that Rembrandt? What the heck? Over to the
Um,
right there, big thing. What is that?
yeah, that's a black velvet painting of End of the Trail. It's
I recognize the framing. It's sort of like from Mexico, right? That they do those. I've actually got one like that. It's kind of like a
really.
brown with the cuts in the framing. Yeah. Are you going hunting? What the heck? What? You got the pizza hat on.
No, I
Oh no, that's
just
Piggly Wiggly. Okay, I
yeah,
see it. All right, so I
yeah.
know what Piggly Wiggly is. We had them in Memphis, Tennessee, but then eventually one came here to Jonesboro, but it didn't stay very long.
Oh, that's
But
a shame.
yeah, it was a big Piggly Wiggly, a big grocery chain. I'm not sure if that didn't start in Memphis, Tennessee, which is about an hour drive away from me, because I'm in
Yeah, I've
Northeast.
never been to one. I've heard of them. My wife
Yeah,
remembers going to a Piggly Wiggly in Albuquerque growing up, but yeah, I don't think I've ever
Hey,
seen
they
one.
had comic book rack. That's all I cared.
really. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess they were mostly down south. We didn't have them up here by
yeah, they
me.
were. But yeah,
Yeah.
big chain, grocery chain down here. Yeah, not everybody knows what Piggly Wiggly is. So yes, I'm a genius. Uh, because I'm a nice guy. How's it been going, Jason?
I've been great. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is the last day of summer break, so I'm a little bit sad. I mean, I'll probably spend a lot of tomorrow sobbing, but
Okay. Welcome.
teachers go back on
What
Tuesday.
have I done with my
Okay.
life?
Now you can say hi to Shadowhawk, which is really Kyle. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, hello there. How's it going, Momentum Rex?
I'm feeling better.
Better than last
No
time. You were a bit rough last time, yeah?
no COVID, yeah, or whatever I had, yeah. So, and I'm prompt, I'm on time, so woohoo, making improvements.
You sound much more energized in your voice. You're sounding like you're on top of the world there.
Well, I'm not down Australia or China. I was told you would fall off if you went too far, south.
As the Hornet from Spider Woman once said after he got his superpowers, I feel like I could heave a battleship.
Okay, all right.
There you
That
go.
was that was Scotty, her friend, who got injected by this well-meaning scientist, aren't they all? And she ended up fighting him in the end, actually, because he went from being a hero to a jealous nut in short order. You know what I mean?
Well,
Oops.
So
we have a I hope you guys don't mind doubling up. We've got Jason Raddick here with you
hello,
this
Jason,
time.
and hello, Shadowhawk. Sorry,
He
I
knew
meant to
who
say
you
hello to
are,
you both
Hello.
of
Kyle,
you.
because
Hi,
he came
Azrael.
I can
in
see,
here
I
and
can
said
see you.
hi, Kyle,
I just thought I'm
to
speaking to
Shadowhawk.
Momentum Rex. I'm thinking I haven't said hello to Shadowhawk, who looked after me last time, and Jason, who's there with a rather stylish hat.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, we were just talking about his Piggly Wiggly hat.
I
That's
feel so
actually
honored,
a
guys.
grocery chain. How did you find that hat, Jason?
Um, Targeted ads on Facebook. This I will buy hats on Facebook, but this one came and it is just too big. I mean, I could not wear it in public. I look like Elmer Fudd. It's just
Right.
so high. But I think it comes across good on YouTube. And so when I wear it a lot when I go on YouTube. In real life, it's a bit much between the day glow color and the big foam front. But I
Right.
like it I like it for streaming.
I've got to give it to you. I drove for 4 years. I paid for my upbringing because I used to give my school bus driver, hell. And I drove, picked up kids for karate class after school, and you needed a taser for some of those kids. So you being a teacher, respect, man. really respect. You know,
Thank you.
you look like you've been out in the sun, getting some sun for the summer, and the kids. You might have even lost some weight since
For
we
sure.
last
Well,
saw you. You know, I don't know.
thank
You're
you.
looking
No,
lean and mean and ready to tutelage.
I'm going to. I need to come on this show more often. Thank you. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
still
I spend a
grateful.
lot of time outside for a summer break. That's for sure. So yeah, hopefully I
It's all
do.
those vitamin D rays.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a big believer in vitamin D. So
Oh yeah, the best source, the sunshine.
100% big believer in that. So yeah, I try to go back to work with a tan in September.
Yeah.
How's the work on your book coming, by the way?
Well, I've got 2 projects I'm working on. I've decided to try to publish a bunch of my short stories that have been published in small markets over the years. I'm going to publish a collection. I have a cover. An artist is working on a cover. It's going to look super cool. It's going to be called Tales of Conspiracy and Madness. And I'm working on the script for Interplanet 2. Excited about that. I think it should be a really good issue. And just, but it's in the planning stages at the moment. I hope to contact some artists soon about producing some artwork for that. But I'm looking forward to getting a volume 2 out there. Hopefully build on whatever little momentum I started with volume 1.
Yeah.
Jason,
I mean,
one second there. You're the guy that did Interplanet 1.
Yes, I'm the writer.
You're the writer. We've talked in quote marks many times through the Indie Comic promo, haven't we?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you've been a big supporter of Interplanet.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have. I just I've never met you, obviously, in video person before.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
a promo person.
Yeah, well, good. You know each other. I know Kyle. Jason came
it's
in
excellent,
here
exotic fantasy sci-fi work. Yes, I've
don't
seen
know
it
if
many
you caught
times
that,
and waxed lyrical about it.
But Jason came in here saying hi to you, and it was Shadowhawk. He was he was well aware of who you are, Kyle. So
yes, I've got a face that wouldn't get away with a bank robbery for sure.
There you go.
well, I would arrest you anyway. Moving on. Yes, it's good to see you again, Kyle. It really is. How you been doing?
Me, I'm been doing fine, thank you. Doing all right, as the early Queen song says.
Now,
doing
have
all
you
right.
seen any of that upheaval in your country, or do you think a lot of that is media driven?
Isn't everything media driven?
Sure.
Very rich people. Very rich people tell us what to think, what to say, and perhaps indirectly navigate how we behave. You know, we're just the pawns on a chessboard. And while I don't talk about sex, politics, and religion on the interweb, at the risk of appearing somewhat lofty, I think in broad terms, I think a shadow of darkness surrounds us, as we probably realise that events are perhaps beyond our control in the last several years. You know, broad terms, that's like a hint. And I think these days, especially if you're in Britain, you have to watch very carefully what you say online. Because there are subject access reports that the banks keep on you, and if you've got to watch what you say. We're not protected by the First Amendment here. People think of this country as the home of democracy. So less to say, I'm safe and sound despite recent events, and I think it spoke for itself.
Well, you're right to talk, about the First Amendment, because it is, definitely a thing here, but is being ignored over here, even though we have that in place. So,
yeah, unfortunately.
But I mean,
it's very
England,
we don't have it.
I mean, right, but we're longtime friends, even though we kind of diverted about 250 years ago. It's kind of took a turn. But
roots, man, you've got roots.
England, we're still part of the Western civilization that's being eroded, and it is alarming to me. I thought oh, at least over 5 years now, uh, uh, maybe about a decade now, that radical Islam, not all Islamists, are the number one threat. And what they could not done in centuries, they've done in the last few decades, which is to come in through immigration legally and then invade that way, which is harsh words, but they are causing some trouble. And also, and I never got the thing, our birth rate is down, so we need to let others in because they will get the vote. That Muslim mayor in the UK, apparently knivings are up 1,200% since he's been in office. So I don't throw any aspersions, but is there a connection there? So, and I'm not sure the courts are ready for Sharia law. I don't think that should be allowed at all if you're going to maintain sovereignty and control over your own country. Oil and water don't mix, and we've battled over the Ottoman Empire for centuries over this thing that we're experiencing now. I hate to see it happen. I think one day, if it continues, we will see the destruction of the of icons like the Eiffel Tower. They'll just tear it down, when they take control. And you say, well, that won't happen. Well, it'll happen within decades. They'll breed you out. Just what was in Braveheart. The problem with Scots is it's full of Scots. If we can't get them out, we'll breed them out. If we can't kill them all, And those are harsh words, but I don't think they're harsh enough. We're going to actually see this in our lifetime, I think. And I'm not anti-Muslim at all. I'm radical, radicalized that want to see the destruction of Western civilization, for sure, because it's antithetical to what we based our civil society on. And to have a civil society, you have to have a civil people ready to, their radical Islam is that they want to, convert or die. And that just doesn't mix very well.
A bunch of years ago, as a matter of fact, it's going on right now, the Necronomicon, a big H.P. Lovecraft convention in Providence. I was at it a few years ago, and Robert Price, who's considered one of the top Lovecraft scholars, he's done journals. He gave the commencement speech for Necronomicon a few years ago, and he was saying the substance of his speech had a lot of what you were just saying now, and he's been excommunicated from Lovecraftian studies altogether for voicing those opinions. It was probably 6-7 years ago, something like that.
Well, I don't think it's an anti-Muslim thing. I think it's a radical Islam. There is a faction, a large faction, that just wants to take over. And I don't think their plans have changed, in thousands of years. And we have to recognize that. If we don't, it's going to be to the detriment of our, peace in society. And Kyle's just taking all this in very quiet right now.
I can't comment on it.
Yeah. I mean, yes, and I get that. Yeah.
I'm just letting Rex go.
I don't mean to get political. Yes, Shadowhawk, what?
I said I'm just letting you go.
Well, I'm not afraid to let people know where I stand on that. I think more people need, if they can, without getting in trouble, needs to raise the alarm to that and look down the road a little bit, and not just to the, and how you, immigration, there was a time in America in the 20th century where we shut immigration down for 20 years. And the reason was to let the immigrants naturalize and
become part of society.
What's the word?
Assimilate.
Assimilate.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
shall be assimilated.
Assimilate into the society. And there was a time that we deported over 1 million out of the country back in the 50s under Eisenhower. And I think you have to, you know, just keep control of that, a good balance, you know, and certainly you can have pockets, but now creating like no-go zones where your law enforcement can't go in, that's
Yeah,
that's
that's
dangerous.
out of hand.
You know, they need to have at least a blanketed, you know, every normal citizen, I think, at least here in America, I can't speak for the UK, but should be able to go where they want to go. And sometimes crime is so bad because my job takes me down every street, you know, every street of the city, uh, in different zones. You don't do all the city, obviously, if it's big, you know, but there's one block we can't go. They actually put up barricades and we're out there with guns and we couldn't go there. That infuriates me because
That's insane.
well, I mean, that I don't know what they're doing there, probably drugs, whatever. They said, we don't want you here coming down here and spraying for mosquitoes, which we're contracted by the city to do, right? And I haven't ever found out where that is, and that's probably a good thing. I'll probably stumble upon it one day and get shot. But you know, those sidewalks in front of their places in that cove or wherever they're at, my tax money paid for that. So if I, as a citizen, want to walk down somewhere, you know, there should be no go zones. You know, I paid for this. You know, I may not live in the houses, and I will respect that. You know, your home is your castle. I do believe that. You know,
Sure.
I'm not sure we really own anything. You know, what the government giveth, the government.
We have the illusion.
They want to. You know,
I think we have the illusion of ownership.
Yeah.
Kind of make you feel good about it.
Just like Einstein said that life was just a very convincing illusion. Paraphrasing him.
Yeah. Are we in some kind of matrix, Kyle?
Elon Musk seems to think so.
Really? I did not know that.
And quite a few top scientists seem to think so. That we've got a set of rules by maybe a grand architect, by God, by you know, it's funny what the top scientists believe. So you know, in that sense, the Matrix proved to be a bit of a documentary if it has grains of truth in it.
Everything's been politicalized, even Christianity to a certain point, and Christianity is always going to come under attack. I think we've seen a rise of anti-Semitism here in the States for sure, from the very top, which is disturbing. A lot of attacks on Jews, and even Asians in the colleges being, you know, it's all about skin with a lot of people, skin tone, and not by merit, you know, what you can do in society. And that's pretty sad, you know, that we don't respect each other enough that we're so superficial that if you're a certain tone of skin or class society, I mean, for the United States, I thought that we kind of seceded because we didn't want to, and we didn't want to set up a class society. Although to Kyle, to be 100%, I believe that we still have a class society, and we talk about it. We have like the upper class, the middle class that the politicians talk about all the time, and the lower class, which is you know, should be all one society, but we just can't get away from skin tone, class society, blah, blah, blah.
Well, you also can't help the fact that some people are willing to work harder than others to provide for themselves.
Yeah, and we did try socialism early on in this country. People don't realize that, but there were certain part of society that were willing to sit on their hands and let others work and then take from the food bin, just like everyone else. But that didn't work. So then they finally tried capitalism, and that did work. Now there's capitalism and there's crony capitalism, and there's corporatist, corporatism, especially today. And I don't think, at least for our founding fathers, that they envisioned that that's the way we should go at all.
Right.
But Benjamin Franklin said, if we're going to have a civil society, we have to be civil, and and these documents that we're putting up, our Constitution, and everything, our Bill of Rights, will only work if we have a moral society. I think our moral society is being eroded, and under attack all the time, and I think it's something to be cherished and guarded. Mic drop.
Right.
But yes, one of the things that we should always have, cherish, is our freedom of speech. And
on freedom of speech, I think Rowan Atkinson, a very famous British comedian, although he's
yes.
not in the limelight these days as much as he used to be with his characters like Blackadder and Mr. Bean.
Mm-hmm.
He gave a very good lecture a few years ago, and this assault on free speech, as for me, as it pertains to freedom of expression in indie comics, is something that we have to be vocal about in terms of our actions, in terms of how we evangelize our right to creativity.
Yeah.
Because before you know it, you can end up in a Fahrenheit 1000 situation where your indie comics going to be burned, like happened in the 50s with the Wortham kind of doctrine on that, which almost destroyed the indie comics community, and business community, much to Jack Kirby's lament and others.
Mm.
It certainly did. I mean, there was censorship, the McCarthy era, and that just coincided with that. And there were a lot of the books burned, and that's why they're rare today. And that came after the war rationing, where a lot of things were recycled during World War II for the war effort, and totally get that. That's why there's probably less than 100 copies of Action Comics #1, which the last one, an 8.5, just sold for over $6 million in the Heritage auction. Now you mentioned, and it just came back to my brain, because I was like, what did Kyle say when he first came in here? He mentioned Spider-Woman. Were you a Spider-Woman reader?
I was. I discovered her in my youngling years, and I think, yes, and I caught a few of those Steve Lealoha issues. I like Steve Lealoha's work, and he was, I'm not sure if he was a fill-in artist, but he was on her title for a few issues. I don't know what it was about Spider-Woman. Very much a character that's created because maybe Marvel were worried that DC would create Spider-Woman and steal the trademark, as was the She-Hulk. And you've got a few characters that created out of that. And I think that came across during the 1 to 50 issues, where she struggled to really get a solid concept together and a sense of consistency, even despite having great creators on, like the X-Men writer Chris Claremont having a swing at it. But I did like those juicy few issues where Steve Lealoha was working, and she had a friend called Scotty who was in a wheelchair, and he took that serum from this scientist, and he became this hornet, and he could actually walk with a serum inside him. Probably a kind of spin on the Captain America trope, yes, of injecting yourself with a super serum. Yeah?
Oh, I think I remember that character now.
He was kind of in a purple costume with wings. Am I right?
Yeah, purple.
Yeah, like a gold visor on his.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Now, what do you know if John Buscema created Spider-Woman? Because I know he was the cover artist for #1, issue 1. I think.
Now this is I want to know this. I always thought it was Carmine Infantino that the art for #1, but somebody else said the poster on X the other day that was actually John Romita Jr. Sorry, not Junior, John Romita Senior. That this lovely lush cover, which is there's two, isn't it? There's her first appearance in, what was it? Not Marvel Fanfare, Marvel Spotlight. She's got full mask, almost the head cap on. There's no hair coming out of her mask.
Right, she was a member of Hydra.
Yes, and was that one done by Carmine Infantino? and the one for Spider-Woman #1 done by John Romita Jr. I'm
The
open
costume
because
is brilliant.
it's sensational.
Yeah.
Can I say the word sexy?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
Yeah,
sure I
and-
wasn't thinking about that as a youngling, but certainly Steve Lealoa drawing Jessica Drew coming out of a shower with a towel on certainly had an impact on me. I was a little bit young,
Well,
but
yeah, I
you
didn't
don't
have no
notice
problem.
these things as a guy, of course.
She took off like a rocket when she a few years ago in the early 2000s, around 2006 or so, when the new Avengers came out with David Finch drawing it. Why they put her in there, I don't know.
Not really an
But I
Avenger,
think
but David
they-
Finch is a hot artist, isn't he? He's a very good artist.
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just love the color combo. And of course, in the early 80s, she had her own cartoon here in
She
America.
did. I watched it religiously.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's my primary memories of a Spider
And had
Woman
the
was a
Venom
Saturday
blast.
morning cartoon.
I don't think in the comic books she has. Does she have a Venom blast in the cartoon?
She has a
Yeah.
Venom Blast in the comic, yeah,
Okay.
and she can glide on those glider wings of hers.
Yeah, I mean that's brilliant. I always liked that with Black Bolt. You know, the underwings. I've got a few characters that utilize that.
And Spider-Man had that early on in the Ditko years, didn't he? The kind of
Mhm.
webbing
Yeah,
underneath it.
they webbed
and
up.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now some people like that, some don't, but I always liked it on Spidey.
I always
Maybe
liked it
more
on Spidey.
Spider-Man.
suited him.
I never minded it. I mean, if it was there, it was cool. If it wasn't, then that was
Yeah.
fine too.
I wonder if Todd McFarlane ever did that,
Oh,
because he
that's a good
liked to
question.
do the
Oh,
knotted webbing and everywhere, and actually went to larger paper format, which I think he still does today with his Spawn covers. And he did that so that he could get more detail in the Spider-Man. He started that with that and continued it on when he went to Image and did Spawn.
Yeah, he had a lot of arguments, didn't he, with Tom DeFalco over the look of Spider-Man because he was trying to make
Yep.
Spider-Man more spider-like and hunched over. So what do we call that? What's the word we give today where you give
kinda
animal creatures to?
anthropomorphized,
That's it. That's the word.
something like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
But he did a lot of
And he also got into trouble
like
with doing the
crazy stuff,
webbing with all
yeah.
that detail as well.
yeah, and like Spider-Man's limbs would be all kind of like rubbery and crazy. And,
Okay, there we go. Archie
Archie-
Goodwin
Archie
and
Goodwin and Mary
Severin.
Severin create Spider-Man. I
Really?
didn't know. I always
Wow.
learn something new when I come on this show. I'm glad I'm here. I got to meet Jason and I got to learn who created Spider-Man. Hey, it's worth the price of admission.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, well, you get what you pay for. Zero.
Yes.
Expect nothing. You won't be
Hail Peter
disappointed.
Orchard, Elder,
Leave me
Apex.
alone. Don't
Mary's-
pressure me like that.
Mary Severin, she was very well regarded by Jack Kirby, wasn't she? He gave her a shout out as one of the women working in comics as an artist. She also drew a very mean Hulk.
She expanded even
Yeah.
before that. When she worked for EC Comics, she expanded the color range of what the color palette of how we color comics.
Really?
Through EC Comics, because her brother's John Severin, who was an artist for EC as well. And yeah, I mean, I've got like 3 issues of Not Brand Eck. Do you
Mhm.
know that title?
Heard
It's sort
of
of
it.
a satirical title.
Sure. Yeah.
She could do, the funny cartoons, or she could do like you said, Incredible Hulk. She's got like Incredible Hulk 105, I think is one of hers, where he's kind of coming up out of a grave with the dirt on him.
Mhm.
That's so iconic, even today. Kind of like almost like the Jim Steranko, where he's carrying the logo on his back, the
That's
king
right.
size annual #2.
She did a very good transformation of the Hulk as well, didn't she?
Yeah, and some of her, on those 1966 cartoons, the Marvel cartoons, there was a Hulk cartoon. They used a lot of her framing. So Marie Severin was animated, in those cartoons. A
Really?
lot
I
of her
didn't know
work.
that. So
Yeah,
Marie
her
provided
look,
inspiration.
You can tell her faces, her Hulk faces, are different from anybody else that's drawn them. And I got to give her props. There weren't very many women in comics.
No, man, she was
Not very many.
one of the few.
We lost Brayden. She was, drew Super Friends back. Drew Metamorpho, and was creator of I guess co-creator of Metamorpho, and also Aqualad. She co-created Aqualad.
Really? So she's had a hand in a lot of co-creations or creations.
Well, just those couple. But
just a select few then.
Yeah, I mean, through the little digest, I first saw her work on the Super Friends, because I never bought the Super Friends on the stands, but they would reprint them in the little digest form, and I loved it. I loved her art style for Super Friends, which was more cartoony. She could do the cartoony, or she could do the serious. She was very versatile, and what a colorist. Colorists just don't get any love from the comic book community till about I would say really to the Image revolution, when they started bringing in digital coloring and the out of focus shot and the lens flare. Marvel and DC weren't even doing that yet. Image, that's kind of what drew me to Image books, is
Who was
they were using digital.
Was it Steve Olive that did the work for Image?
I'm going to defer to my co-host, who's muted right now, because he bought everything Image for at least the first 4 years.
Steve Olive started off with his because he had a really strange process, from what I understand, like compared to what it turned into.
Do you remember Shadowhawk? And I think you've got it, the Devil Flyer Index, with the Frank Miller wraparound cover that came out in the mid 80s. Steve Olive's name is on that cover. So he was coloring back in the 80s for sure. I don't know how far back he goes, but I love Olive's stuff.
Speaking about Marie Severin being a pioneer in colouring and expanding the colour range, actually, you look at other female colourists in the industry. You've got Lynn Varley, who makes Frank Miller's work on The Dark Knight sing. I mean, I think it's her colour work that really takes it to the next level, although obviously Frank Miller's work speaks for itself. And then you've got Claus Johnson adding his scratchy, dark, shadowy inking powers. But I think where it really sings is Lynn Varley's colouring is just heavenly. It's exceptional.
It's incredible, yeah.
I would say in the last few decades, the big change in comics is we're almost like the Dodgers baseball team. And what do I mean by that? The Dodgers, being out on the West Coast, brought in people from Japan, the Philippines, into baseball first. In South America, they were progressive in that, and they have looked for talent outside the country. And South America, man, how many, and there's been a bunch of artists that have been from Puerto Rico and just all over. Now it's with the internet, it's amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The talent that you can find.
A bit like Nottingham Forest, my football team, going to Argentina and Brazil looking for up and coming talented football players who we signed for relatively little millions, and then potentially can sell them later for lots of millions.
Well, the Olympics have been a thing in the past few days, and I read on X this little thing where the UK hosted the World Series not too long ago, right? Was it 2012, somewhere in there? Anyway, they said they really missed an opportunity by not going to Nottingham Forest and having the archery competition there. I agree. That would have been nice.
Well, you've got perfect marketing there, haven't you? That's the marketing bullseye. Archery in the home of not.
They could have cosplayed. I think they could have cosplayed.
They cosplayed Robin Hood as well,
without impeding their ability to, I guess you could have left it optional, but that would have been sweet.
It's funny, actually. Tottenham Hotspur, the London-based football team, actually have this new £1 billion, I don't know what that is in dollars, £1 billion stadium. They've got a big loan for it. But one of the things they're doing is it's been used as not just a football venue, but for other events like the Super Bowl, I think.
Oh, really?
Right.
Allegedly.
Wow.
What, the Super Bowl in England?
Yeah, apparently there's going to, well, not the actual big Super Bowl, but American football, perhaps, to play some games over there.
Right, yeah.
Almost like exhibition games, perhaps. But I don't see the actual Super Bowl leaving America anytime soon. But in terms of introducing American football to well, not necessarily a foreign market in terms of Britain, but, you know, kind of get more people to, you know, you're going beyond. It's like in indie comics. If you want to really grow, I mean, one of the phrases I think Momentum Rex used was looking outside of comics with his example just moments ago. To actually grow, you can look outside and see who's doing interesting work. It could be somebody who's into ceramics, an artist that's into fashion illustration. And some of the people I actually highlight in my indie comics promo, I'm not necessarily after what's popular. I'm looking for specific things to promote and to promo, such as there's one artist recently, Jason Green, it seems to have a fashion illustration that's very expressive in that way, but it's telling stories with a kind of expressive fashion illustration style, which I think is quite different. That is interesting to look at. So
well, when you look at art history, and Hex Allen does, and he's saying he's having a leisure day and had to catch the Leonardo da Vinci exhibit before it's gone. Absolutely. He goes to museums. I love art history and museums, and I've always thought comics need to expand into, like you said, fashion, you know, different art styles. That's what I liked about. Didn't always like the end result of Bill Sienkiewicz's work in everything.
But he was pushing the frontier, wasn't he? He was actually pushing it.
Yes. And that's what I like about it. I think that there needs to be different genres, different ways of telling stories, and I always gravitated to books like Aztec Ace that always had a lot of symbology in it. And I think that's why the Vertigo line did so good with like the Sandman series and things. I love the Aquaman series that they did, and they've done a few Doom Patrol covers this way too, where they have a shadow box with, like, you know, photographic covers of different elements put together to make up.
Well, you had there seems to be some kind of tension sometimes in the comics community about what artistic techniques, I wouldn't say are permissible, but for example, Marvel done photographic covers on Spider-Man where Peter Parker's about to put his mask on, or Dazzler, she had a photographic cover, and even in the 60s during the house that Jack built.
I think last time you were on, I showed a panel from Jack Kirby.
Of realistic backgrounds that were used, photographs that were used, and you had illustrations in front. This isn't new. This is decades old.
No, 60 years, and it's still mind-blowing what Kirby did with. Where did he get that stuff? I guess he went to collage because he didn't have the internet.
I would speculate that prior to the internet, I think he probably had stacks of the National Geographic, and he probably cut up bits of old National Geographics, created a collage. So you've got transformative art. It's not just taking a photographer's work. He's actually cutting different elements out and creating a transformative new piece of work, like they did in the pop art in the 1950s, in terms of artists.
Right.
I mean, Liechtenstein and stuff like that, part of the pop art movement. So, Jack Kirby was very progressive. I think he probably looked at artists like the pop art movement, Liechtenstein, probably in particular Picasso. He once made a comment on thinking, I'm not sure that he didn't think Picasso was anything special, but he was looking at Picasso and thinking, I could do that, and he did.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, a lot of people compared Ditko's stuff to psychedelia, and he wasn't into the drug scene or anything, but it was kind of just. I mean, the guy just had some imagery, and some of the greatest imagery that he did was the next decade, the Bronze Age in the 70s, where he did a lot of Charlton books, a lot of the, you know, with a lot of the wild imagery that was just as wild.
But artists never create in a vacuum. I'm sure Jason doesn't create in a vacuum. I'm sure Shadowhawk doesn't, and I'm sure Momentum Rex doesn't, and I certainly don't. I think there's almost that level of osmosis where subconsciously you pick up on what's happening culturally. And although I don't talk about specific items of politics, sex, and religion, it was Stanley himself that said, bury those things deep. Have heroes that have feet of clay, and bury your personal beliefs deep in the ground. And so that way you can let the reader pick up on on certain things and think for themselves, not tell them what to think. Don't preach at them. As Jim Shooter recently said in an interview, he said that he felt that comics had forgotten what business they're in. Don't preach at them. We're telling stories, adventure stories.
Right. Yeah.
We're trying to sell escapism, not sermons.
Giving lectures.
You said it, Shadowhawk.
Exactly. I mean, but now that being said, let me play the devil's advocate, which is your life experiences, and Jason can probably chime in on this too, because he's a writer. We each have, everybody on this panel has a worldview. My Christianity is my worldview. And I make that if you're an atheist or an agnostic, that's your worldview. Fine. Then you're going to tell stories from that perspective of who you are. But yes, you don't have to be preachy about it. In fact, Denny O'Neil did that with Neil Adams in very short term in Green Lantern, right? Yeah, they talk about social things like the use of drugs.
Yeah, there's such a thing as being subtle and being aware of the times, but not trying to suffocate the reader with your worldview.
Yes, absolutely.
Subtlety goes a long way. By the way, I couldn't resist a pun. Devil, flyer, momentum's advocate. Okay, I'll behave myself now.
I mean, just like with different art styles, there's also in storytelling, there's different ways you can tell stories, and I'm hoping that to show, at least through my independent comics, that there is a variegated variety of ways that you can tell stories.
Yeah. If you look at Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, you can see you don't just have to have the conventional A to B. You can have A to C to E, so that increasingly you give the reader credit for having critical thinking and having a brain.
Yeah.
Jason, what have kind of been your? You mentioned Lovecraft. What have kind of been your influences, and what kind of informs your writing of comics? And why comics? You could write War and Peace. You could, a treaty on that will bring the Middle East together. You could be, you could write the next big novel that's made into a movie. Why comics?
Yeah, well, don't underestimate the power of comic books.
Yeah,
and
the visuals.
Yeah, I mean, War and Peace almost killed my desire to read ever again. Having summers off, one of the big things about that is having time to read a lot. And one summer I decided to read War and Peace. I think I was hoping to get kind of that buzz you got from Game of Thrones. I wanted to read a big epic of nations invading each other. And
Lord of the Rings
torture. Stuff. Yeah, sure. I should have reread Lord of the Rings. I haven't read it since I was very young. But yeah, reading War and Peace was a horrible slog. I should have given it up. It took me almost all summer to read because I just hated it so much. And it took me a while to fall back in love with reading. But of course, you're affected. I mean, I think I read once that you're influenced by everything except yourself. So it all goes into your writing, and it goes into the way you create and whatnot. And it depends on how, is there creativity involved? Are you doing it in an artistic manner? Do you have ideas? I mean, so much stuff. There's just no ideas. I like the guys who have ideas that make you see stuff that you never saw before, would never expect to see, have all kinds of great experiences, like say you would in great 70s cinema, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, who would come up with things that you had never seen before. But then still, it's so obvious where they got those ideas from. It's amazing that George Lucas built this huge empire based on like Flash Gordon serials and whatever kind of serials Indiana Jones was based on. But yeah, I think those movies do say something about our lives, history. I think they count as art. They're not just copying. They're not just like I'm going to remake King Kong, or I'm going to remake Godzilla or something.
Now don't hit on that now.
Yeah.
Transformative. Inspiration and transformation.
100%. Someone said recently, it's not where you get your ideas from, it's where you take them.
Oh man.
And I want to, before we move too far beyond, I was watching some old episodes of Doctor Who on Pluto TV. They have a channel that just shows, and Day of the Daleks was on, and it was unbelievable how much. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. When I was a teenager, was seriously into it.
Who's your favorite Doctor, Jason? Jason, who's your favorite Doctor?
I go for the easy one. It's Tom Baker, but there's
It's Tom Baker for me.
Gotta be Tom Baker.
So you want to pick something more challenging, or
give me that scarf on the jelly baby.
Yeah, the scarf, the hat, the opening sequence, just iconic. 100%. Yeah. But this was Day of the Daleks, John Pertwee, who I like a lot. But they would stop the episode for John Pertwee to make political speeches. It's something I would never have noticed when I was 12. But all of a sudden, he starts lecturing the other characters about something that sounded an awful lot like socialism to me. And then there were these characters who were helping the Daleks, humans that were on the Dalek side. And to me, it seemed they were a lot like the Vichy French government, the collaborators with the Nazis. Mm-hmm. And so, and I mean, Doctor Who kind of gets a pass, maybe because those stories were known to be drawn out way longer than they should have been. And maybe they needed John Pertwee to give a lecture once in a while. But as horrible as the political lecturing in modern entertainment is, it did exist back then. I was quite surprised to see John.
No, you'll see that over time, not with the original Hartnell, and not a lot with Patrick Troughton. But I mean, as you come into the Pertwee and further Doctor Who's, you see more of that, because I think it's more of the English sensibility of being a pacifist. And then, of course, a lot of the Pertwee years had a lot of eco-friendly stories, of save the planet, don't pollute, give a hoot, don't pollute, I'm crying, the Indian, don't throw your trash out. And so that was the 70s, and I think it was progressive in that way, and in getting it out in the mainstream, at least in England. We didn't get to see, really, Tom Baker was the longest running 7 years, around 7 years. And he, for like Shadowhawk and I over here in the States, that's about all we got. I can remember once, like in probably 75, when they brought back Gary Anderson's UFO for a very short time on Saturdays. And then at the same time, they brought back Doctor Who. And why I remember that, I think if memory serves me right, they first started with Hartnell. And the shocking thing about that was color TV was in by then. And I'm old enough to remember when all we had was black and white. And I remember when it was like The Fugitive in color, or The Invaders in color,
or The Avengers in color,
folks. Batman in color, when color came in. But by 75, everybody was in color. And all of a sudden they're showing black and white. And I'm like, what is this? It was kind of different, And you had Hartnell. They did one story over, probably a shorter story over a few weeks. Then they had a Patrick Troughton for a few weeks. And then they had, and I tried to watch them. And then you had Pertwee that was in color. And even in the Poultry, the one thing that intrigues me about Doctor Who is what we have lost, what has been erased, and what has been found since I've been collecting. I've only been collecting for December will be 9 years. I started collecting and started with William Hartnell, and I am the dissenter. there's something about the early ones. I love early TV and William Hartnell, and he's the one that's set the cast. I love Patrick Troughton. He's like Charlie Chaplin, another big thing for me. Love Charlie Chaplin. Got Charlie Chaplin back there. That's an actual 70s
I watched
poster,
them.
and that's an actual 1920s newspaper article with a Chaplin cartoon on it. Love Charlie Chaplin. I think he made film, at least in America and around the world. At one time, he was the best known person in the world, more than even the president was. You know, he couldn't go into a country and they would know who he is if he wore the tramp outfit. You know, I adore Chaplin because now, was he a perfect person? Absolutely not. But we don't have to be a perfect people. We just have to be civil, you know. And if the way I look at it is, if I clean up my backyard and Jason, you clean up yours, Shadowhawk cleans up his, Kyle, you clean up yours, then we'll have a clean society. But not everyone.
And if I cut the elephant grass in my back garden, I think is where I need to be actually over the next few days. It's grown rather tall, so I'll be out there with clippers and a strimmer and my God-given hands.
There you go. You know, I mean, around here, it's amazing. They're kind of, you know, I can go on the citier side of town and they can have junk and mattresses out front and stuff, and it's just abysmal. And their grass can be 6 foot high, and the city doesn't tell them to do it. If I've got one dandelion that's too tall, they'll come out and tell me because of where I live. You know, and I kind of get miffed at that. I keep mine. I pay to have mine cut. I don't even have, you know, a lawnmower. I'm not opposed to that. I actually think it's meditative, you know, to do stuff like that. It gives me time to think, you know. You know, I'm a big proponent in remove all the distractions, especially when you're trying to write. The thing about writers is they write. The thing about artists is they do art. You know, you have to do it. I think you learn something in the process of doing. You know, it is a process. If you're sitting around like I was as a young man, looking for inspiration to come your way, you're wasting your life. Get busy doing something, and in the process, you'll learn it.
Yeah, I think so. It's all about the doing it. It's about action, isn't it? I mean, it's a form of meditation doing art. If I do art, hours can pass, and I wonder where the time went. It's a form of meditation for me, and cathartic it is too. Good evening, Genuine Comics.
Yeah. Just to go back to Tom Baker real quick, that's
Tom
all
Baker
we got was Tom Baker on public television, PBS, which is government funded, you know, and public funded television that gave us things like Sesame Street and other things you might have heard about in the UK. And I grew up with all of that, you know, Mr. Rogers.
British sci-fi, you've talked about British sci-fi, and
yeah.
I don't know if I can say that all Brits are gritty and cynical and have a more, perhaps, I'm not sure if it's down to earth view of sci-fi. But if you look at things like 2000 AD, Judge Dredd, Blake 7, Doctor Who, there is a sense of anything from eccentricness to grit, you know?
Red Dwarf.
Red Dwarf as well. We've certainly got our own sense of humor. Yeah. It's
I think we should all grab a towel. I think we're at the Douglas Adam time of grabbing a towel. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. What did you think to that, Momentum Rex and Jason? Have you watched it? What do you think?
Doctor Who was in that in the original. He played the pig thing that said, "Why don't you take a little off the side?" You know, that was the Doctor after Tom Baker. You know, he played that part in makeup.
I have to say, Doctor Who lost me after Tom Baker. I just couldn't accept Peter Davison. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
Was it because you watched him in Everything Great and Small or whatever that thing was?
I'm sure in my head somewhere subconsciously that didn't help, but I thought this guy's trying to play cricket in the TARDIS. That simply won't do.
Yeah, and wore a stalk of celery.
Yeah, and the question marks. I thought the question marks in the collar were cool when I was a teenager. Now it's it's a little tacky.
But that started under the Tom Baker thing in the latter years of Tom Baker.
But I bet it was John Nathan Turner. I mean, I think John Nathan Turner did some good stuff. He came in, but he stayed way too long, and he should have probably left with Peter Davison, and maybe they could have gotten a new vision for
a lot of good, a lot of the stuff he brought in just didn't work.
No.
Design wise, like Colin Baker's jacket and everything, and then the way they approached the character, where Doctor Who was downright mean to his companion.
Yeah.
So, well, I suppose William Hartnell could be somewhat abrupt and aloof, but I felt that William Hartnell captured he created the mold for Doctor Who, and also all these things that we're talking about, whether it's Blake 7, Saffron Steel, which again is only could have been made in Britain with Dave McCollum and Joanna Lumley. They were made on such a tiny budget, and that put pressure on the story writers for Doctor Who. Some stories ran a bit longer, some ran very cheaply and were shorter. It depends on the budget they had for a particular episode, and sometimes they were chasing their tail. And I was watching a documentary, that's how I know about this, the other day about it. And sometimes they'd run out of budget, so they could only shoot an episode in the TARDIS where everybody, the TARDIS infected them with like a mind virus or something.
That was
and they started obviously getting paranoid about one another. And so you had, obviously Jason will know about this as a writer, you had the opportunity there to do lots of character-driven kind of atmosphere and tension and drama and suspense, and that can be just as good in some ways as fighting the Daleks outside on a quarry in Britain.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
Doctor Who is all about the quarry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we had a few of those in Blake 7 as well, a good few quarry episodes in Blake 7 where the guys were being teleported down to another quarry. But I didn't think of that at the time. I kind of, I tell you what, I don't think, was it Quincy that kind of took over from Saffron Steel? I don't think I ever forgave Quincy for that, or the theme tune.
Terrence Dicks, if you know Terrence Dicks, big part, wrote most of the Virgin books about Doctor Who, and script editor, and just
the Target novels.
Yeah, the Target novels, and just I can't think of anybody hardly that's contributed as much, to Doctor Who as Terrence Dicks, and I didn't know. I'm not going to go there. I didn't know him. I that's why I adore Doctor Who, because the commentaries inform me of the erasure of certain, like Marco Polo. We'll probably never discover that from Hartnell's era.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Even in up into Pertwee's, and then Sharda was never completed. Douglas Adams, and now it's been animated and kind of completed. There's a couple different versions out there, but I learned, Terrence Dicks talks about Malcolm Hulke, who was a writer that wrote many Doctor Who's, and some of the better ones, even up into the 70s, 60s, 70s, and he was very left-leaning, maybe more socialist than a lot of writers. Yet he says in the commentaries again and again that a lot of that just didn't come into Doctor Who, and sure. But some of it seeps in. Absolutely,
it's called being a good writer.
Yes, it's called being a good writer. I mean, obviously the Daleks, we know what the metaphors for, and that, and the shall I say the collaborators that work alongside the Cybermen. Okay, I've got to ask it. Let's do something real basic here. Momentum Rex and Jason, your favorite Doctor Who nemesis?
One of my earliest memories is of the Sontaran experiment. So maybe I'll go with Sontarans.
Really? You're going to go with the potato heads? That's pathetic.
Yeah. I thought it was just such a cool cliffhanger for that first part.
That was a two-parter.
It was a two-parter.
Yeah.
And the Sontaran just takes off his helmet. Cue credits. I thought that was so cool.
Quillian out of the rescue. Great insectoid, and it was a man in a costume, a ceremonial, that's the, sorry, spoilers 60 years later, but one of them, I mean the rescue's got to be one of my favorites, especially the lighter on those episodes where they put up a lot of black drapery and put smoke in there, and Hartnell throws down with the villain. I mean, he's fighting for his life. Arguably the second episode out of that two-parter is one of the best ever made, I think, because it shows he's so assured of himself, he turns his back to the potential murderer. He's coming in here to kill Doctor Who, and he's just, full command. You don't know how he's going to get out of it, but you think
that was my next question. Your favorite episode?
Well, I mean, it's hard to pin down. There's been over 60 years at this point, right? If you count new, I kind of stop at classic. Although I think a better question might be, do you like what they did in the David Tennant years, when it was basically introduced something that had kind of been hinted at, but not really explored, which was a love story, where he actually kind of falls in love. Is that good for Doctor Who? Because he was always kind of like, yeah, I'm sorry to see you leave, but he was kind of detached. There might have been a due to juxtaposition, them being there in the same room, a little tension or a little tit for tat, on the.
So we've got episode Nemesis and love interest. I think I've got the answer. One arrow, one heart. Yeah. For me, it's the Daleks.
Okay.
And obviously the nemesis to beat is Davros, which leads into my favorite episode, which is Davros, of course. And finally, the love interest. I think Sarah. And why I think that is he let her go. Maybe he shouldn't have, but he let her go. Because when they were starting to have arguments, they weren't the kind of standard kind of arguments and petty bickering, or maybe they were. It was a sign that maybe he had two hearts and maybe she had one of them. And he let her go. He just dropped her off and then left in his... he didn't give her the exact street she should have been put on, typical with the TARDIS. It has its flow where it can't be as precise as you want, which is a good plot device.
And later they explore that. From her end, it's like, you just left me and never came back. You could, when she expresses that, you feel that.
He got summoned by the Time Lords, right?
Sarah Jane, probably for all.
Yeah, that old chestnut. You got summoned by the Time Lords. Come on, Tom.
That was a very memorable moment when he had to drop off Sarah Jane to go see what the Time Lords were up to. That was pretty moving.
I was pretty young and I was a Sarah fan. I know she screamed a lot, but she was feisty and plucky. Yeah, you even had feisty women in the 70s.
Oh, I had a crush on her, for sure.
Hell yeah.
She had the aesthetic.
Yeah. But now there's episodes, where the Doctor is off doing his thing and Sarah Jane's in some real danger, where he's like, yeah, you can take care of yourself in a way, and I'm like, your companion could die, and of course that's part of the writing, but that's what they don't say in Doctor Who has to, what you put down on the page, right, is important, but often what you omit is even more important, or can be, right?
Gravity.
Mm-hmm.
The absence of words have gravity as well. It's what you leave out. It causes a gravity of emotion.
Well, I mean, you have artists that take that, with their art, like Alex Toth. He's like, let me get the scissors out and cut this thing down. And I think a lot of writers need to do that.
Yeah, less is more.
Less is more. Absolutely. Because you're opening the door for the reader to become interactive with what's going on and care about the characters, because they're bringing their life experiences, and you don't have to spell everything out for the reader.
No, I think we're living in an era where everything has to be, in quote marks, explained, sometimes excruciatingly so.
Yeah.
Someone, have you seen that movie Hereditary? It's a horror movie.
I have.
Came out a few years ago. Someone mentioned it lately, and that movie was almost ruined for me, because it's one of these. It's a movie where you have to figure it out. What's going on? There's like something evil going on with this family. People are being infested with demons and stuff, and you basically figure it out organically by the end of the movie. You're like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. But then they add like a scene after the action is over where they sit around and explain what you just figured out yourself, which I found very annoying. It's like, I just done all that hard work, figured out what's going on, and then you sit down and just explain it. Maybe.
Or the gratuitous sex scene. You know, there was a good sci-fi movie, and I watched it. I liked it, and it had the main characters were a male and a female, but there was never anything between them in the whole movie. There wasn't even a hint of it. And it's like, I don't have an ending. They'll wind up in bed together. And it ruined the whole movie for me. It's like, how is that a good ending?
Just you can suggest attraction like they did between Tom Baker and Sarah.
But they never you
get the poignant TARDIS exit scene.
They never built up to that. They never hinted that
that's it, isn't it? If you don't build up to things, you get rather awkward and ham-fisted kind of exposition, don't you? Where, you know, look at the DC universe, the Snyderverse, if you want to call it that. They tried to snatch the careful build-up the Marvel Cinematic Universe had done. Yeah. Well, they were careful up until the last phase. I don't know what they were doing with the last phase. I don't want to comment on it. But that point where the Avengers all came together was a kind of like knitting together a tapestry of all the individual movies, which had obviously given the threaded moments, hadn't they? You know, the kind of post-credit scenes and that to give you pieces of the puzzle. And then the Avengers came together. You get some sense of satisfaction. Although, personally, I still like Avengers #1, Ant-Man and Wasp actually being part of the Avengers, but I'm old-fashioned that way.
Yeah. Diane Rigg. Oh. Yeah.
Well, it's good to see we have lots of red-blooded males in the chat tonight who like Leah and who was that one that began with an R? What was her name? Romana, was it?
Romana. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. When she came out in a Greek gown. Master Jason is showing us
about this on my YouTube channel.
Let me just if you could just hold it up for a little bit longer. Yes.
I think there was an alternate cover where she was big and Steed was small, but Boom I just happened to pick up this one.
Okay, I mean, so you got like that's cool. Different.
Grant Morrison's take on the Avengers. I thought that was well worth checking out. It's all right.
Yeah,
it's black and white. It's silhouetted, and what I like about her character was again attraction between those two. Even though she had a husband, is again. Suggested, isn't it? There's lots of playfulness, flirting, and sometimes one or two situations which I thought you couldn't get away with that today, where my eyeballs almost fell out. But what obviously Diana Riggs wasn't ugly, you know, she was an attractive person. But what made her deeply attractive was that yes, she was feisty, she was elegant, she could handle herself, but she had wit and imagination and the C word, character.
Yeah,
lots of it.
Well, you know, there was Romana 1 and Romana 2, like Hex Allen says, you know, and
that did just a whole
season with a theme. Did you like that when they were looking to get all the crystals together in that one season with Romana 1, the first Romana?
I like the first Romana from what I could remember. She was wore these almost like Greek style gowns. You know, it's also almost a classical looking character.
Mm-hmm.
But then, for whatever reason, the actress left the show. Which you know, I'm thinking I get attached to these female assistants, and then they leave me. I think I probably had abandonment issues for years because of those. So,
well, how many companions? Here's a good story. How many companions did Doctor have? He started out really, if you count Susan, his granddaughter, 3, which is kind of like what they went to after Tom Baker at the end of Tom Baker's, he had 3, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is 3 too much in the TARDIS?
Well, you know what they say. Three's company. Was it? They say.
Three's company.
Three's company, but two's. Was it three's?
Or two.
Two's company. Two's company. Three's a crowd.
Yeah.
Because you get the pig in the middle syndrome. But how that works for a cast of characters, I don't know. Does that work the same way? Maybe Jason knows as a writer. Do you prefer 2 or 3 as external cast members, NPCs to your main character 1?
Well, I mean, as far as Doctor Who, I think the classic formulation is the Doctor with a female assistant. But I mean, when I first really became fanatical about Doctor Who, they were showing Peter Davison in my local affiliate, and so of course he had a whole menagerie of hangers on. So I like that too. It's kind of nice. And then they killed Adric. Spoiler,
right?
But they still had Nyssa and Tegan, and so I'm good with all of it. It's different kinds of formulations work in different situations. I'm easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of PC now. I mean, kids hide behind the sofa, right? The couch. When they were younger, that's the big British term. It's like, ooh, peek out, And I kind of probably did something like that with horror movies as well when I was a kid. I remember watching one that was a made-for-TV horror movie that was like these demonic type things living under a staircase or something in the house.
Oh, classic, yeah.
Scared me to death, and Mom said,
don't be afraid of the dark.
You turn that off and go to bed. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I was scared out of my wits, but I wouldn't let her know it.
Yeah, classic TV horror. That was a really scary one.
Salem's Lot. I didn't sleep that night after seeing the priest get skyrocketed into the ceiling and his neck slightly twisted.
Well, I get it. I get why you might like the Daleks, but for me, because you're kind of immersed in it over there in England, right? But now I've got to say, I kind of prefer Cybermen, and then I really like the Ice Warriors as well. They
after the Daleks, by the way, it's Cybermen. There's something very inevitable about them.
Yeah. Do you like the Zygons?
Oh, yes.
The Zygons are awesome.
Zylons, yes.
The Zygons are kind of like pizza gone bad.
Yeah.
Zygons.
Especially their controls. Looks like a pizza.
Well, what type of pizza are they, Momentum Rex? Are they ham and pineapple, or are they anchovy?
Yeah. You used to get anchovies everywhere, but not anymore around here. It's like they don't even offer anchovy anymore. Anchovies are kind of out for a lot of people, and I never liked it. I just couldn't marry the two together.
I can't resist this because obviously I'm a Nottingham Forest fan, world famous city ground in Nottinghamshire, Robin Hood country. I've got to ask you guys, on the Forest podcast, or one of the 2 or 3 Forest podcasts that I actually listened to, Matt, the host of this particular one, asked all his guests what type of pizza they were into. So I've got to ask Jason and Momentum Rex, what's your favorite pizza?
I like classic New Jersey pizza with a sausage topping is my favorite.
I prefer a thin crust, but can I be controversial and say any type of pizza, even bad pizza? I'm sorry. It must be the carbs that drive me, but I love pizza. It's my number one food in the world, that and grapes.
A chicken and mushroom thin and crispy pizza. Although I think I'm with Momentum Rex here. When you're feeling real hungry, can hit the spot.
Yeah. I mean,
pro pineapple.
You can't go wrong with pizza, I don't think. I was talking yesterday about them bringing it to America, a little bit of the history on that. The Sicilians from Greece would work in the factories in like New York and whatnot. And they had these big radiators, to keep everybody warm during the wintertime. And they would bring their little pizzas and put them on the radiators, and they would cook while they worked. And then come lunchtime, they would be fully cooked, and they would eat them. That's how they cooked their raw pizza that they would make at home.
I think my mouth is watering at the sound of that. I'm feeling hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we start talking food, we're going to get hungry and want to go. So we better get off this subject,
we also need to know what Shadow's favorite pizza is as well when he gets back.
Yeah, I do you think, since we were talking Doctor Who, do you think that they've destroyed the lore of late of Doctor Who? I know that's controversial, but it's not for me. I think they've,
my answer to that is Tom Baker.
Yeah. Well, now you've got the brain of Morbius, where you saw they inserted a lot of the writers, a lot of the people that wrote, in their battle. You got to see images of possibly former Doctor
There was
Who.
hope for me with, what's his name? I liked him as an actor, Geordie lad, Chris Eccleston. There was hope for me liking the rebirth of Doctor Who. And Chris Eccleston, I thought, he's in a leather jacket, so they're getting him modded up. They give him a buzzsaw haircut. He's a Geordie lad, so he's going to have a distinctive accent. And I thought, it's on.
And he's a great actor.
He's a great actor. And Our Friends in the North, he was on that. He was excellent in Our Friends in the North. I think Daniel Craig was also in Our Friends in the North as well. And one good female actress in that as well, whose name escapes me at the moment. But I have to say, what can I say about?
I was going to mention.
I felt he didn't last that long. I think he left after one season, was it?
Yeah.
I just felt it was a lost opportunity. I think even the actor himself felt that he wasn't perhaps given, either it wasn't sold to him right, or what he was promised. Yeah. But it just didn't really capture the range of Christopher Eccleston as an actor at all.
I agree.
Him goofing around is not Chris Eccleston, and you're wasting an actor like that.
It's like Lisenby trying to replace the original James Bond. He only did the one movie, and I think looking back on his career, even though he wasn't an actor, he was more of a model. He did a great job with Diane Rigg. I mean, hey, come on, and Telly Savalas. One of my least favorite as a kid because it was a romance story, but it's one of my greatest James Bond movies now, especially. I mean,
it's aged very well.
Diane Rigg was in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Later in life, right before she died,
Great John Barry soundtrack on that one.
John Barry soundtrack. Oh, take me to heaven.
One of the best, yeah.
Well, yeah, we've not talked about. We've hinted about lighting.
Welcome back, Shadowhawk.
The music and things, and often they would recycle from earlier episodes, but great music and the theme to Doctor Who, and them taking the chance with the graphics from the very beginning. I mean, and that's why it's lasted till today. There's something innovative about it.
The theme is just lightning in a bottle. It's amazing they came up with something so incredible and timeless, and it is so aggravating that they've been so disrespectful to it. The last 10 years or so? It's like just drum machine, like no bass. It just they've killed it. It really is aggravating. I mean, I haven't watched the show in over 10 years, so
as a heavy rock, heavy metal, and Carpenters and ABBA fan, so that's quite a mix. I find the emphasis of drum beats, it doesn't help me with popular culture or entertainment. I see the dogs agree with me.
Oh,
absolutely.
Here I thought it was safe.
Hey, listen, I like Donna Summer's disco. I like disco's music like nobody. So I'm okay with drum beats and the boppity boopity kind of music.
You're my new best friend. I love ABBA and the Carpenters. They had their day.
Harmonies.
I grew up with all that. I love disco. Disco is not dead. Love ELO.
ELO. I love ELO. They're my second favorite band. Love ELO.
They're one of my favorites, if not my favorite of all time. Although I love the Beatles. I love, there's certain. I mean, oh my God, I love Moody Blues, Procol Harum. I mean, it's Grace Slick. Oh my God. I mean,
harmonies, melody.
I just love, I love music, and I almost have to stay away from it because it's its own universe, but when you're putting together a show and I'm impressed, Jason. I mean, like who does the music and stuff on Doctor Who. That's awesome. So, but yeah, I have all the classic Who's. There's not an episode I don't have. I have some of the Australian special editions that have additional material because I really get into commentaries and stuff and learning about it. And one of the things that really interests me about the Doctor Who is what you don't see on the screen. All that rich history that, of them wiping a lot of them and then the recovering of them. Some of that, while I've been collecting in the last almost 9 years now.
So you've had to go to the foreign editions to actually complete your collection as much as you can do, given that some episodes were
and love
beyond.
The audio BBCs. When I go out at night, I take a lot of the, I might take Will in Space and put it in and listen to it. And sometimes you don't know what's going on. That's why I like that they're animating sometimes poorly some of these, but hopefully we can have some representation for every episode.
Okay, I'm going to posit a suggestion here, and I'm sure somebody might actually take this suggestion and run with it. The whispers of the internet. It's like Chinese whispers, isn't it? Word gets out. What about this? Have you seen the retro style AI stuff where the concept of Star Wars and other such things has been put in? Mm-hmm. I think in terms of getting a recovery of early Hartnell episodes, there is a chance there. Now, how about that for a concept?
Absolutely. That might actually work.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, it seems inevitable.
As long as they don't, like the last Bruce Lee movie after he died, they put his head, superimposed his head, and his head kind of floats off to the side every now and then. And that I see
Game of Death.
AI. If they'll correct that, where his head doesn't float away for no reason and then come back, or he turns and the features go, then I'm down for it. Absolutely. I think retro is going to come back in a big way. And then in my comics, I'm going to try and bring back some of that. I even like the scratchiness, that they put in and then the certain sound on those things that you see on YouTube of like Star Wars 1920 and just the coloring and the palette. And I love that. I think I would go see that in the movies. Terminator 1950. I'm down for it. Alien 1950. I'm down for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've watched a few of those, haven't we?
We've watched a few of these on here, and shown them. Yeah. And I love it. I love the cartoon with the hair on the film, and then it comes over and
plucks yeah.
Because they're breaking the fourth wall there, with the audience, but those were part of it. And you can't go to the movies anymore and see, you're just getting into the, Millennium Falcon's getting ready to take off, and then all of a sudden the film burns. And it'll be 10 minutes while we splice this thing together. And then you'll skip a bit.
Right, yeah.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Yeah, we won't see that anymore. We won't see the long lines. Everything goes to streaming so quickly now.
Yeah.
You'll never see a Star Wars. Star Wars was the D-Day, was the King Kong of our day, where, it was in some theaters 2 years, folks.
Yeah.
2 years. A movie, and you'll never see that again. Never even come close, because they'll want to get it to Disney Plus or Paramount Plus or whatever. They'll want to get it to streaming and make that revenue as quickly as possible. They will not keep anything like that in the theaters near that long anymore. And that's sad, because that's an experience,
Yeah.
Now, the only hope we have for like a lot of these old movies is
now
when they bring them back, for redistribution in the theaters. But then now a lot of them have been edited as well. So
yeah.
Well, yes. Was it somebody out there suggested that Gone with the Wind might not be acceptable anymore?
Oh yeah.
That's all part of history. If you erase history, then you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And culture is downstream from history.
to me, that's what freedom of speech is all about. I am all about freedom of speech that I don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
have you seen Momentum Rex? Have you seen that speech by Rowan Atkinson, the comedian?
Yes, I have. We played it here, and it's like 9 minutes long. We played it here on the show, and absolutely, I'm down for Mr. Bean that never said a thing, and Mr. Bean coming out like some kind of drag queen on this thing, man. Wow, I loved it. You know, one of the things that I play is the Dictator Chaplin's speech at the end of Dictator too, about loss of freedom and everything. I don't know if you know that speech, but everybody should listen to that as well. You know, if we do not recognize the things and able to call them out and feel like we have the freedom to call out the things and argue about the things that we disagree with, and I at least in this country, you had comedians that roasted and talked about Jews and blacks and their conditions and you had the Dean Martin roast where they played all kinds of jokes and you know, we don't have that in the country anymore because we're so sensitive to such things, and I think that's a healthy thing. A healthy, if you're offended by it, that's your problem. You have the right to say things that I don't necessarily have to agree with. You know, so
I'd say I defend Momentum Rex's difference of opinion with me on any subject.
Okay, yeah, well, you may wind up
same for Jason and Shadowhawk, whether I agree with it or not. Some things which I won't talk about public or personal, but in principle, you have to defend somebody else's difference of opinion, otherwise you haven't got it.
No, exactly. Yeah, and if you don't talk about these things, you're doomed to lose it over time.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think it was an American. There was an American president, wasn't there, that said you're only one generation away from losing your right to freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
I wonder what president that was.
If we're talking in biblical
sounds like Reagan.
Yes.
Yeah, Reagan. If we talking biblical terms, we see that in the Bible too. I mean, they had just come through Egypt and bondage and all these miracles and everything, and within one generation in the book of Judges, they've turned away from God. You know, so it's like you can see miracles happen, and then just to, you know, well, we want to go this way, you know, and you go to Israel and you think it's this religious place. It's not. Most of it's secular. You know, they have a very secular society. You know, it may have, you know, a lot of the tradition and the Zionists and the different factions there, but there's a lot that are, you know, very, very secular.
I think with globalism and look at things in a global sense, there's, how do I view this through the lens of comics? In terms of independent comics, it's great because there's no excuse now. You can create your comic, put it out there. We're using Star Trek technology right now to have a teleconference, basically, to have a phone chat with visuals,
Yeah.
To me, it's Star Trek technology. Working on an iPad with an infinite art shop, it's okay. It's not pencil and paper, which I love. You get my Staedtler clutch pencil out of my dead, dying hands and my piece of paper. I love the smell of paper. I won't go into it too much because it won't sound good, but I can really, I can sniff and touch paper all day and talk about piece of paper that are 500 sheets deep, man. And A2, don't get me started on an A2 paper, but you know, in global terms, we've got no excuses. We've got all the technology now to print on demand, to say, right, I'm going to a convention. I think I could sell 25 copies of Interplanet Volume 1 at a local convention. Well, I say local because in the United States, you've got countries next to countries, whereas in Britain, you've got counties next to counties. When we say United Kingdom, well, yes, we are, but there's a different scale to America and the journeys you have to make for your conventions, of course. You guys are used to driving for days and staying at motels as ways to get where you're going to for the conventions. But, you know, something like Jason can use print on demand, say, right, I need 20. I think I can sell 25 copies of Interplanet Volume 1 at convention and print just those. You don't have to bankrupt yourself now by printing 2,000 up front and trying to get through the diamond retail shop hegemony. Don't get me wrong, I love local comic shops. I've lived in them. I've talked about whether Thing or the Hulk will win in a fight in them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at the pie chart, let's look at the pie chart, right? Let's call it a cake. How much of that cake is going to the retailer? How much of that cake is going to the distributor? You end up with an independent creative team that are getting what, 11% to 16% of the cake, and you've got to pay out of that. Jason's beautiful colorist, and that bit for the last 20 minutes, it's been on my mind. Ask Jason who his colorist was, because I've got Interplanet PDF open up on my desktop right now. I'm looking at the colors, so they are slightly distracting me. And I called them in my Indie Comic promo. I said, these are rich, exotic colors. So obviously the pencil work on Interplanet is very well. It's very elegant and accomplished, but the coloring as well is very rich and makes it sing. And to me, I'm looking forward to reading this again and again. I don't read all my indie comics in one go because I don't want to pressurize the indie creators for the next one. So I read them in chunks of a few pages here, a few pages there. You know what I mean? And try and absorb them over a longer period of time, because obviously a lot of independent creators aren't on individual schedules. But regarding this idea of the pie chart, how much of the cake can we circumvent so that the creators can get more of the rewards for the IP that they created, and enjoy more of the rewards with a creative team if there's more than one?
Exactly.
I don't know if any of that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's why, the crowdfunding model and Fund My Comic and that is working really well for a lot of guys. You got to use it to your advantage,
Yeah. By the way, Jason, who is your colorist on Interplanet? I'm plugging. You know what I'm doing here, don't you? I'm being cheeky. I'm plugging your book.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it is a beautiful looking book. Yeah, the colors are Leonardo Pacioretty.
Very nice.
Yeah, I had seen. Yeah, I saw some of his artwork on social media, his coloring, and thought it looked fantastic. And he agreed to color Interplanet, and it was great. Yeah, I love the colors. I hope he can come back for volume 2.
Is the artist coming back for volume 2 as well?
I don't know. It took him. Alan's artwork is amazing. I love everything about the way Interplanet looks, but it took him almost 3 years to.
Wow, 3 years.
Yeah, and I cannot do that with volume 2. I want to look. Yeah. So I may have to find a different artist. Because I don't want to wait another 3 years for volume 2. So, yeah, he may not do it, which would make me sad. But
yeah, that's a shame. That I know. Obviously, you want continuity of the magic, but if you're waiting 3 years, you can't make a living on three yearly issues.
Yeah.
By the time you've done 10 issues, your life's over, unfortunately. I hope that doesn't sound disrespectful, but the artist did a great job on it. In fairness to him, but 3 years is, to me, I think Eccentric and me. I was on his show. He does the Indiesphere, and I plugged his Indiesphere show on my Indie Comic Pro on X a few times, and he's doing a book between Demons and Angels, and he's working on volume 2. And he's got volume 1 out. I've just actually backed that, between Demons and Angels.
Oh, yeah, just saw that.
Volume 1. And I've given him his money for it. And he's working a little bit with me in terms of the postage and shipping, because obviously for printed books, and it's an 80-page book. And he's done his in magazine format. That I guess you call that in UK terms an A4 letter-sized shape, yeah? A bit like the Marvel UK reprints I used to read growing up, yeah? And he's worked with me a little bit on shipping, because for some reason shipping rates from the US have gone insane compared to 10 or 20 years ago.
They're nuts.
And so because of that, I back mainly digital books, because I can get probably 4 or 5 digital purchases per traditional paper comic, so I can support more indie comics that way. But if I was at a convention and I saw Interplanet on the convention table, I go, I'm having that. Or Eccentric was at a convention table, I go, yeah, between Demons and Angels, I'm having that. But hopefully I shall receive it soon. I think he's posted it to me, so it's making its way over in a boat, I think.
Well, the thing about crowdfunding, we've kind of solved the distribution problem.
That was not the grail, wasn't it? The distribution and the fulfillment.
Yeah, I mean, like myself, I was sitting around for decades, world building, wanting to get into comics, but just not having the plug-in. not knowing how to get plugged into it. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, this could work. And now you can, once you plant that seed and kind of get your base, then you can go and get that first product in hand. Then you can start adding it to like Amazon, to the and worldwide, and in different formats, like you said, depending on what printers you have. But it is a learning process, about paper stock and and then I know with a lot of books during the pandemic, there were shortages of paper and things like that. And I know,
shortages of workers.
I was doing my ash can and trying to get it out. It was an election year, and my printer was doing a lot of election stuff, and it was kind of delayed because of that, not necessarily because of shortages. And again, this year I'm trying to get a book out, and it's an election year. So, but I'm not going fully with that printer.
Serendipity strikes.
Yeah, it's it's leap year. I did want to show you.
Timing is nothing if not perfect.
I did want to show you Alan Class. This is the UK reprint book. The reason this is one of my favorites because it has a 3D effect when you look at it.
Very nice. Look at the depth of
like I can almost put my hand underneath this blue character here.
Yeah, I like that.
And it probably doesn't show up that well on camera, but really in real life,
I see what you mean. Yeah, you can really.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was in HMV in Britain, in the Midlands, the other day, and they had what I was just doing some research for merch. I'm always doing research on merch, like t-shirts, mugs, and just the way that you can create extra revenue streams. Obviously, your dog food, in quote marks, is your book. But obviously, your revenue streams that you can add to that and supplement it and can even eclipse your comic book or merch, different types of merch. And one of the things, obviously, what's hot at the moment, Wolverine and Deadpool, a return to form, he says in quote marks. Lessons learned, eh? But anyways, being serious, they had this Wolverine and Deadpool merch, and you've got plastic figurines, you've got A2 posters, maybe even bigger than that. And one of the things was this 3D effect was a lenticular picture of Wolverine and Deadpool, and just the depth they can get. It was like a hologram, but in full color, rather than with kind of that hologram style colors. And I thought, I almost bought it, even though I'm not a massive Wolverine or Deadpool fan. I'm not particularly fond of Deadpool either. I'm not sure I'm into his irreverent take on the heroes. Hey, some people like it. I have watched 1 and 2, but I have to say that lenticular merch, I thought, there's a possibility.
That's pretty cool stuff.
Now that one there would actually suit the lenticular work. You can find a supplier for some.
I think Shane Davis has done a card and a print that were lenticular. So far.
Well, going back to Shadowhawk will back me up on this. I mean, Bowcat Studios, Steven, he did a print run of 25 on his book, print on demand, and had full covers.
Really?
Very nice, hollow full cover.
Full chromium.
And he didn't have a big campaign whatsoever. And and he continues to do this limited print on demand, and they're all interlinking covers. He's working.
All right. So it's not just variants for its own sake. There's actually a purpose to them. This is something I wonder. Indie comics have got quite specialists at doing variant covers. So you're going to see that competition to give them meaning. Oh, right. You've got cover A, B, C, and D. But is there a concept that threads them all together? If I'm going to buy all 4 variant covers, what's the point other than the fact that it's got cool art? You know what I mean?
Right.
There's almost, like you're saying, Momentum Rex, there's like a purpose to the variants if you're going to collect them all.
Right. Like, the Golden Age variant, his costume is different. And then on the back image will be the same on a couple of them, but they're recolored to fit the cover that's on the front. So it's maybe the same image, but you're getting something unique on every one of mine. Because I want that difference, one's a wraparound, one's a blank for drawing on.
I see.
That's the one I'm really excited about.
So you can have, what do you call them? Sketch covers.
Sketch covers, right?
Sketch covers,
And I really went I mean, Jimmy Reyes, wraparound cover, big artist. Okay, wanted to do that, and then I already had from John Falandes, who did the interior artwork for the Devil Flyer story. He already did me a watercolor cover, which is more in the blue and gray costume with more of the Spawn Eldritch like energy, because he was kind of viewed as kind of like a Doctor Strange Spawn character, to tell you the truth. But then when it came to the main cover with John Dillard, I leaned into what and listened to people. What they were saying is that, well, he doesn't really look like a, his name, Devil Flyer. So I did the burgundy and red costume and the flame powers in that one. So and then the group shot with all the other. There's 14 characters on that. Making some of them on the cover for the very first time. So and that's what I'm working on now. And Dee just sent me an art piece here. This this is what he first did as sort of a thank you for launching a couple of his books, Tome of Reckoning. And his wife is a colorist too. She's going to color this.
Deal. Well, that's kind of what I was talking about, Lynn Varley, because I do know actually her colors really pop. She reminds me. It was actually somebody else on Twitter said, or X said, that basically there's a touch of the Lynn Varley about Dio's wife's coloring. And that cover, by the way, Momentum Rex, would suit the lenticular merch idea, perhaps.
Well, I had the ideal to put on the back cover this. So I had him do another piece, which was role playing, turning it around, where the armored up is no longer in the foreground, but he's the one swooping down with his battle axe,
Reverse shot. Very nice.
And so I'm trying to do innovative things even on the back covers. And then the back cover image will become a standee in my next campaign.
Standees, who prints those? Who supplies those? Any printer?
Well, I haven't looked into that yet. I've
seen them for Carmen America and characters like that. Oh, who's that?
I've seen that. Phantom. What was his name?
I know. What's your face? Rini has done standees. Neff and Frequency Girl.
Camel Moon. A bunch of them.
Yeah, Camel Moon did a bunch of them.
Probably brought it in more than anybody. I've got like half a dozen of them.
There's a couple more of them floating around out there too. I forget.
They look quite effective, don't they? Those acrylic standees. It's just finding a supply. I don't know of any printer that does them.
It looks cool.
I don't think they're overly expensive or anything.
One reason I backed this and put an acrylic standee up there without even checking into it is he put this out with the book and a sticker, all for $25.
Not bad.
Not bad. So if he can do that, then I can ask him, where'd you get yours made up at? Yeah. And they could probably be affordable. So I went ahead and bit the bullet on that, and a hardback book, artist edition with additional material. And the great thing you talked about digital, with digital, you can make it as big as you want. You can put additional material. So with my, John Dillard had mentioned maybe putting additional.
You don't have to do about shipping weights, do you then?
No. And the good thing is if you put it on Amazon, I understand, like Katie, who was in the UK in our chat here, a minute ago, and she may still be here. If you are, chime in. She's been working all day, and it's late, as you know, Kyle, over there. So she may have already went to bed, but she bought Melvin from Amazon and didn't have to pay that shipping cost for some reason. So it was a lot more effective, as far as, not paying that high shipping.
Well, Amazon, there's perhaps a route there for independent comic creators as well. Obviously, you've got Comics Wellspring, you've got Mixon, you've got quite a few different comic printers. what's one of them called? Print Ninja as well, who do like the big
Yeah.
upfront runs,
Yeah.
but you save on the per copy cost. Obviously, if you do print some like 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000 up front,
Right.
whereas digital print on demand, it can't quite match that yet, but it's got better over the years. You've got Kablam as well, haven't you? But I think Mixam are even cheaper than Kablam now, and Mixam actually have a UK, obviously UK based, but they've got an American branch
And
as
I
well
think
now.
actually Kablam was using some of Mixam's factories to do their
Really?
books.
And I think with, you know, if we will share within the indie community, you know, like I know Shelby Robinson, Jason Bascom, and Dan Pleagle, they do a lot of those sketch covers. So of course I'm going to go to them and say, okay, what's the best quality paper that you found on these, and where do I get it? You know, if you go like, oh, I've used Sticker Mule before, they're great on die cut stickers, then pass that on to the next indie creator, you know,
Yeah.
so that you can do their book, you know.
I used to work in education. One of the phrases used to be there would be some people who would be empire builders. They'd hoard all the resources and hoard all the information, yeah? Whereas actually in the indie comics community, we can separate ourselves from the corporations and how they go up where every minute thing and every cent is fought over, sometimes with legal
Hey,
battles
Jonas.
on doing the other person down. Whereas in the indie comic community, we have a chance to champion one another, and therefore a rising tide lifts all boats.
There you go.
And with Amazon,
Absolutely.
the reason
And
they can do the free shipping or reduced shipping is because they're such a big company they can absorb the costs, I guess.
and I get it, you know, like Dark Gift Comics, he does the nylon, I guess they're nylon tapestries or silk tapestries.
Mhm.
And he wants to kind of keep that a secret and kind of corner that market. I don't have a problem with that because that's just kind of a specialty item. That's one thing about crowdfunding. Okay. For emphasis, right? That's why I do this. It's look at that lunchbox. It's not about just comics. It's about you can do stickers and lunch boxes and hardback editions and magnets and trading cards, and you can do anything you want. You just, you know, lenticular covers are expensive, you know, but if you get the base and you get the following, you can do that 25 or 30 issue print run with the lenticular covers that cost so much at a premium, and people will buy it. But first, I think you have to first plant the seed, let it grow into your audience, and look at different avenues and different formats, like the little digest says, or the novelettes, or the larger size. I'm kind of going more European with mine, with magazine size, which was not the plan at all. The reason I did that was for the art, you know, to be, it really needed to have that gravitas, it needed to be blown up. That's because he drew it so small. The artist drew it the size of a comic book, and the reason he did that,
All right,
being
yeah.
our first mentor, he didn't want any printing problems. And you know what? We've had zero printing problems. The guy's a hell of a designer. So when you look at the Devil Flyer story, remember he had 2 eye surgeries while drawing it, inking it, and lettering it. And he also drew it the size of a comic book, very small. So look at his design and just tell me he's not a great artist.
And he was what, like 78 years old or
Yeah,
something
he's
when
like
he
72 years old, I think, right now. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that just that for dramatic effect sequence that you just talked through, Momentum Rex, should be pinned on a good few people's independent comics spaces on X and YouTube, and mandatory viewing to just listen through that again and think, hang a minute, he's talking about lots of merchandise, limited runs, premium runs, different avenues to generate revenue. Yeah, revenue
Right.
streams.
Mhm.
Yeah, a big umbrella to catch all those raindrops, pennies from heaven.
Yeah, and you
That's
know,
all
I
about
didn't muddle up my campaign. It was all about the books. Yes, I had a tapestry and I had a standee, but that's it. And then the rest of the stuff were like stretch goals. But you know, I'm going off site having working with Ray Haylock, who's in Australia, who does website design and everything. And he's teaching me all this technical stuff that, frankly, I didn't grow up with. You know, I
Me
could
neither.
have computers, but I stayed Picasso. and painted, or whatever, and did the artistic thing. But I can have my cake and eat it too because I can hire it done, just like I do my lawn. I don't have to know everything. I just
No.
have to know the person that does, kind of like Kyle.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, let's see how I sneak that in.
No. I think the thing is with people of our generation, creators of our generation, there is a
Hello.
danger that. Hello there. There's a danger that we have, I don't say a fossilized viewpoint on things, but there's a danger that you've got this new progressive technology, but you're not using it. For example, video for trailers. For example, using this to speak to one another and share ideas, to grow beyond our traditional community, get people outside with comics in. So a woman does ceramics, learn from her. So a woman does fashion illustration. What can we learn from her? What can we bring from outside of comics into comics? Instead of the corporate model of a snake eats itself and regurgitating big crisis style events over and over again and repeating the same message and wonder why manga's handing you your backside, actually look outside, your medium, and from different creators, art, comics, movies, games, and toys. You see what I did there, yeah? And by looking outside of our quote unquote core audience, in quote marks, what you just said, Momentum Rex, is exactly what we should be doing. Not look, I won't call myself an old dog, but I always challenge myself to learn new tricks. So whether that's Jason's rich coloring on Interplanet, which I've still got open on my desktop, it's not going anywhere just yet. I'm going to give that a good read. You have to read it more than one at a time. I read everything in pieces because I want to enjoy it and savor it. To me, these products have taken a long time. Hey, if somebody spent 3 years actually drawing this thing, I know it's an exceptional amount of time, but I'm going to take my time to read it as well. Rather than just eating at one go and say, where's the next one? To me, I don't want to drive a stake into the artist's heart and say, oh my God, he wants me to do the next one. It took me 3 years to do that one. You know what I mean? But and the general principle of time, obviously we want to produce quality stuff in less time, but that's another holy grail, isn't it?
Well, I pitched an ideal, always creating characters, world building, and I said, John, would you draw Devil Flyer? And he said yes. And then for the next 8 months, I tried to pitch him every, sci-fi story, every other thing instead of Devil Flyer. And then I thought, man, I got to get something going. Wanted to crowdfund and get on the bandwagon, this and that, and get into get something produced. And it took us over a year to get just the Devil Flyer story fully done. And of course, like I said, he had a lot going on, but he was doing it all. I mean, he did the pencils, he did the inks, and then he did the letters, and then all that he did, like a trading card, he did a cover, he did promo stuff for me, and
the force is with him. A clear
then
Jedi.
after that, I said, this is not enough. I've got to add some backup stories, and then that's where I saw the greater vision, giving myself time, that it's not about one character, and I don't want it to be about one character. Can I tell that? Yes, but then that's one and done. We don't have the luxury of being on a monthly basis, a bi-monthly basis, or even a quarterly basis, depending on what we can do financially, right? But that's why crowdfunding's here, to and to see, and also test the market, right? Do they want what you're selling? And you have to get out there and sell yourself. And even though we're on here daily, I can't say that my first campaign, it's doing about what it's expected to do, and which is awesome.
Well, it's like that Greek legend, Sisyphus. You've got to push that boulder up the hill, and if you're lucky, it'll roll down the next valley all by itself. But then, for that next peak, you're going to have to get your shoulder to it.
Yeah.
And we have to take responsibility as artists and writers and creators to do a bit of the marketing ourselves.
Yeah.
And also share the load of that marketing. It's the rising tide.
And I get it. There's a lot of introverts. There's a lot of people that don't want to come on camera, that don't want to talk. I think Jason's a little bit, kind of like that himself, right? I think you've expressed that in the past, that it's not easy for you to come on here.
It's not easy.
Well, especially a lot of the the guys our age and a little bit older are,
Yeah.
they're not used to all the social media and
No.
talking
No.
to people left and right. They used to, fax stuff back and forth or send it by FedEx to New York or whatever. It's like it's a
It's
whole
good to have
different
you,
world.
Hellman. I wrenched you. And I did drop your YouTube there. If anybody wants to subscribe, check his content out. Thanks for coming in here for the very first time. I hope this isn't the last time. If you like the content, hit that like button and the subscribe. And this is my book for you new people that have never seen it. Shameless plug. Couldn't resist. Got to show this thing off occasionally.
Oh, it's
Gotta
a
be shameless.
fantastic trailer.
Fantastic trailer. Speaking of old dogs learning new tricks, tonight I've actually set up my microphone for the first time, this Samson Q2U, and I've put the earphones in. So obviously I like my heavy metal and rock, but that just blasted my ears. It's great because I'm
sorry
still
about
kind
that.
of no, I enjoyed it. It's I'm very old school. I love music like that. You won't catch me with beats in or heavy beats.
That'll be entertaining.
Hey, I remember those. My sister, my family used to wear those. I won't go into that. I never did, of course.
Well, I actually, back in the early 80s, I went to summer school. Never been to summer school. Somebody invited me. Why don't you, I'm going over there. Why don't you go with me? So we did. My parents, and it wasn't much of a summer. I learned a lot, but it wasn't, it wasn't a break from school. But it was a good experience. But I actually got to meet the guy that came up with the concept of Tony the Tiger.
Really?
Breakfast cereal.
No, cool.
Back in the 50s, I believe it was, which was pretty cool. And he tutored me in English a little bit. So that was cool. He was a true eccentric. He was probably in his 60s then, right? White haired like I was. And when nobody was watching, he would skip down the sidewalk, but if he ever saw anybody, then he would stop skipping. He was aware that was a little eccentric, but he was,
eccentric,
really cool
but great.
Yeah, but great, yeah. And
when I was a cashier at Sam's Club in the 90s in Albuquerque, the guy who did the voice of the owl in the Tootsie Pop commercials was a customer.
Biting. Ask Mr. Owl. A one, a two, a three. Yeah, right.
He would come through our lines and he would always tell us who he was and give everyone a Tootsie Pop as he went through. And he told us, this was like late 90s. He told us that it was the longest running commercial currently on television, which I had some corroboration of. It was still on and it had been going since the 70s, I think.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Wow,
effective.
Cool.
Little.
It's a great story, Jason. I can't match that one. You've got me beat there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about people like stories. That goes back centuries, right? You got the old bards before you even wrote it down. You that oral tradition of telling stories. Everybody likes a good story, whether it be a ghost story or a story on history of where your ancestors came from, where you learn things. And both of you guys are educators, and all of us should be influencers. I don't care who you are, if you're introvert or if you're bipolar, we all have a unique story. We're all unique in the universe. There's not another you. There never will be another you in all of history. And let's face it, if you're doing this to be famous, most people don't know who Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, or Steve Ditko, or John Buscema, or any of these creators are the outside of comics. They just don't.
They
Even
don't.
today, they don't realize.
And
And
those
they've
creators
had,
were the greatest of us, and yet even they're not well known. Look at Jack
they're
Kirby's
not well
fight for
known.
Yeah.
recognition, and his
No.
family, and his heirs.
If you're doing it to get rich, like the Ninja Turtles, Kevin Eastman and Lard, you're not. That was lightning in a bottle. You're probably not going to do it. And it's amazing they did it. And it didn't happen overnight for them either. It's a process. Nothing comes easy, and if it does come easy to you, you probably won't appreciate it. I mean, just like when people win the lottery, they're statistically speaking, they're bankrupt within 2 years after winning millions and millions of dollars because you
Yeah.
don't know how to handle money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Poor management.
I think that's an important digital marketing or internet marketing or social media marketing message that you say, Momentum Rex, is that your unique selling point, your USP, using business speak, is you. Whether it's Katie in the chat, whether it's Momentum Rex, Jason, or Shadow, Hawk, you've all got the potential to have a unique comic and get it out there, because the internet is so strong in terms of billions of people being able to access it, 2 or 3 billion people, that there will be enough people like you. There'll be an overlap with people who are, people might say, strange or unique or novel like you, where you can think, oh, I can actually coalesce because of the order of magnitude of the internet, that all those people who are like me, isolated throughout the world, can be unified to a market for people like me. And that market doesn't have to be 1 million. It could be a tribe of 1,000. And tribes in the comics community are great. We can have these balkanized landscape with different people. And it's all right for us to create that friction and not necessarily get on or agree with every little thing, because we can coexist and have a little bit of friction, a bit of friendly competition as we reach for the wild frontier of indie comics.
Absolutely. And I'm all for trying different things, be an innovator. Don't go with the old tropes. And maybe that's all and if you can get, a comics, one term a lot of people have come on here and say are niche, and that cuts me to the bone, but I'm afraid they're right about that comics are kind of niche in culture, but
in American culture, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the transformative nature. We're using Star Trek technology tonight. With AI, you've potentially got the Holoroom from Star Trek. Yeah? We talked about timeless stories in Doctor Who that will always stand the test of time. Tom Baker will always be my man, my man in terms of a doctor. He'll always be my doctor. Maybe that's a generational thing. But I think the people who created those stories probably fought in wars or knew people who did. And the consequences of that, which probably are probably too distant now for the current generation to appreciate, but because they suffered or new people suffered, it oozed through in their work. That's why I talk about Stan Lee's Feet of Clay. And that's probably with Brits as being a cynical bunch and a gritty bunch that sometimes leaks over a little bit more in terms of episodes of Doctor Who or Blake's Seven or various other things. We've certainly got our own style of doing things, you know what I mean? Whereas there's a little bit more romanticism and hero and bootstraps, wild kind of Western frontier territory in America, a nation that was forged out of out of trying to tame an entire continent, for starters, which is a lot bigger than Britain's little island by comparison. We're Great Britain, but if you compare the two, there's a kind of there's a difference in romanticism there. I think we're romantics in slightly different ways.
Yeah. Well, you have that whole old world, coming from different countries.
I think we're
neighboring countries. You have a lot of that cross pollination in your
being Americans. I think you have a much more open view of like the world around you. Like we have so much room, and it takes so much time to travel from one state to another, and all this. And when you get to like smaller places like the East Coast or England or you know, European towns, everything is so close. It's, you know, you can drive to another country in 20 minutes.
Within reaching distance.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah. I mean, France from me via the Eurotunnel is what, a few hours drive.
Well, look at Mobius. He certainly brings his background to comics, and uh, you know, it was the direct market that kind of brought him on the radar in the '80s, and yet he had been out there, you know, creating art. And again, you can have a Leonardo da Vinci just
gotta
right
get the
next
courage
door and
to
never
come
know it.
from
You know, a
Yeah,
tree that falls in the woods and you're not there to hear it. Did it really fall, or did
exactly.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
there are undiscovered, the next generation of creators in comics, and for some reason they may never get on your radar, which is pretty sad. But now through this technology, like you're talking about, the Star Trek technology of what we're using now, the internet, to reach out, we have it. And just I always like to jokingly say on YouTube you can get a PhD. If you don't know something, Google it. If you have a trouble, I know I spell check everything because I realize I'm only average in spelling. Okay, that's my weak point. I'm a great writer, but I double check a lot of words, you know, or their
Yeah.
usage, and
But
I
that's
do
it,
that.
isn't it? I mean, if we look at the creative chain from like you're talking there, uh, can you condemn somebody for using a spell check? Of course not. That's there to help you produce a script worthy for your audience. And the
Mhm.
audience know you've gone the extra mile to give them a script that's legible. Yeah. And I
And they'll
think,
Yeah,
never know it.
at least you bothered to check.
and
I
they don't need to
mean,
know that. The fact
No.
that you've done it, we can be critical of ourselves. I think we know what we need to do as creators. And yes, it's nice to have an editor or a friend to actually check over your stuff. But I think sometimes we look in the mirror and think, oh yeah, that I could have done better with that drawing, or I don't know anything, or I could have perhaps been more expansive with my marketing, or I should have gone to that convention rather than just that one. Yes, it takes longer to get to Scotland than France. I'd second that. I agree. I know because I've done both. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's done it, but Scotland. What's that famous? I'm sure there's a song. My heart belongs to Scotland. Sorry, I was being whimsical there for a second.
I take it you
Don't put me in
been
that
to,
car because I know where I'm
you've
going.
been to Scotland.
Oh, many times. My family comes from that part of the woods. You know, I
Okay.
used to. I can talk about this, and I don't talk about personal things, but I will talk in general terms.
Okay.
I used to think that people who talk about, oh, I have this special pull to the land,
Mhm.
and maybe it's because I've seen Highlander and Braveheart. But you know, going to
Yes.
Scotland, I experienced it firsthand. I thought I don't want to go back over that border, back down to England, and it's nothing personal.
Hmm.
But I'm not actually English, but I won't go into it. But you know, having Scottish and Irish blood, then obviously, to me, it was very hard. I could feel it. It was something mystical, magic.
Yeah.
Oh, I sound like
What
actually.
about Ireland? Have you been to Ireland?
Oh yes, I was
Yeah.
born there.
Oh, were you? Okay. Learn something new every day. See, you're teaching me.
I think we teach one another.
Yeah. How long did you grow up there? Or did you quickly come to England?
Well, not nearly long enough. Obviously, you know, you're born in one place, you feel a pull to another place. You know, to me, and I think you know we all have that lineage. I mean, for Jason will have a feeling where he feels at home.
Yeah.
Shadowhawk will have his sense of where he feels at home. Momentum Rex will have his sense of where he feels. And you've talked about your lineage before and your legacy before Momentum Rex, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well,
important
I
to
mean, it's kind
to
of
people.
different. You know, I was adopted, and then it was only last year that I found out that I had a sister that was still alive and one that's sadly
Wow.
passed away. And
Oh, sorry to hear that.
yeah, my sister giving me all this information, first cousin removed, was a signer of the Declaration of Independence and the governor of Virginia at one time. Our coat of arms is the flag of Maryland. We
Yeah.
came from England to Maryland. I have two former presidents that I'm related to, the 9th and the 29th presidents of Harrison. And then they came to Arkansas and for some reason changed their name from Harris, but and actually after the Revolutionary War, I'm told that he took on the last name of Harrison from his wife, that to distances, I guess, from the king in England. That's when we went through the name change of our family. So very interesting lineage. There's got some Celtic blood, and I'm going to probably do the ancestry DNA, and then also through, and the way my sister found me was a blood test that my daughter did on our family.
Really?
And
Wow.
then her son found it, and then she said, "Yeah, I'm your half sister." Blew me away. Still blows me away.
Wow.
And
Yeah, once
her
you do
father
one of
died
those
up
DNA
here where
tests,
I live,
man,
right here.
you're open information to the internet. So
Yeah. Again,
you gotta realize.
I think that's why Facebook is so powerful, because people that know you and grew up with you that you haven't seen for decades, you can still connect and stay in touch.
Yeah, it's also why it's so annoying.
Yeah.
I see. Is Shadow British? I've detected a small dose of cynicism. Maybe it's got lineage that goes back to Britain.
Yeah, he's a glass.
Dude, if I haven't talked to you since high
like
school, maybe there's a reason why. I'm just saying.
Tell me about metal covers. What are these
Ooh.
things? Metal covers. What I've heard about
Have
these
you not
metal
seen
covers and
them?
metal trading cards. I kind of half seen them. I kind of think, what is that? Is that a thing?
Yeah, somehow they're using like the same like they're
print on
making
metal.
same material as the cards, and I don't know if you've seen the prints that they've made. If you guys have made Edwin actually on the Ace Volume 2 made a metal print. But I guess they're like aircraft aluminum or something. They can actually paint on the surface of them and make them look really pretty, and then they glue them to a like a cardboard cover or whatever.
Oh, very nice.
Do like a square bound. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff, man.
Sharp, it will cut you.
Sharp.
Yeah,
Wow.
Cyberfrog Wrecked Planet
yeah.
has a foil cover, I believe.
Very nice.
Yeah, Ethan's been doing all chromiums like on all of his books.
Very nice.
Well,
he loves that 90s feel. There's a few of them that aren't, but
metal, I think, though, Shadowhawk, right? Metal cards are different than your sort of like chromium or your full card.
Yeah, no, they're actually printed on like aircraft aluminum or something, where it's as thick as a trading card. You could actually like fling these across the room and like do some damage to somebody.
Oh yeah, you could cut yourself on this card here. Yeah.
Is this the kind of aircraft that I got this?
Oh, okay.
I'm a massive Infinity Gauntlet kind of guy or anything like that. I tend to stay away from big events like Crisis and whatnot. When DC had the Dallas Shower Bobby moments, yeah. But this I got from a special series of books. Well, special. That Hachette in Britain did reprints of DC books, and Marvel did Hachette did reprints of Marvel's key stories, popular events, and that over the years. And I bought during the kind of lockdown, which I won't go too much into, but I actually started collecting the DC Hachette series of reprints of like big momentous stuff, and that I've got them in my IKEA shelves back there, all lined up. I got quite into them, about 20, 30 of the Marvels and the DCs. And with collecting the Marvels, one of the early offers I took advantage of was this metal Infinity Gauntlet kind of cover. So when they print, it's metal. Yeah, I'll just turn it around so you can see it there. And there's the Marvel imprint. Is that what we're talking about here with the metal covers? That kind of thing?
No.
Well, really? Yeah, but they take them and then attach them to an actual, square bound book.
What, they can actually attach the metal covers to the square bound book?
Yes.
How do we do that? Not with staple.
So do they do interstitching like a bound volume?
I'm not sure if they're gluing them or how they're doing them. I haven't gotten one yet. I've gotten the prints. I've gotten the cards. I haven't got one of the books yet. So
All
Well,
I
right,
back
don't
in
that'd
the
be
know.
cool.
early days in the 40s, I have a World's Finest #6, and it's a cardboard cover. Now it's detached because the glue is 80 something years old, right? It
Well, I
it
think
popped
that's what
off.
they're doing is, binding them to some kind of board stock
I
and
see.
then, adding,
All right.
pressing that into
You gotta
your
wonder
square
how
bound.
why do that? I mean, I can see the full covers or the
Because you can make a lot of money on them, man. You get them CGC graded and they're worth ridiculous prices.
Jason, I can see an interplanet metal cover in your stars.
Oh, dude, talk to what's his name? The little guy that runs Coffin Comics. He's been around forever.
Oh,
Brian
Coffin
Polito.
Comics.
Brian
Brian,
Polito.
Brian
yeah,
Brian
Polito.
Polito.
Brian Polido.
He,
He's
he
really into
can
his variant covers,
he
isn't
can
he?
tell you how much metal covers can make you, man. He's probably bought about a fleet of Corvettes. With
But when does it become just a gimmick?
Dude, they're beautiful. I mean, if you
Yeah.
do them well and you put them together nicely, then it makes a very nice collectible. You
Well,
know,
one thing that I would like to do is like die cut covers. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, I think the foil cover thing started when Marvel bought Topps trading cards, because Topps was doing all kinds of foil stuff with their
yeah.
trading cards. And so when Marvel bought them, they kind of absorbed their technology doing stuff like that. And, I kept the Interplanet campaign as simple as possible because I'm a moron and I get confused easily. But now that we're moving on to volume 2, I do hope to now that I've learned a lot, make it a little bit more complex. But I think metal is cool, but I like the lenticular better. I've always really dug
Yeah, I
lenticular
dig the
stuff.
I
lenticulars,
like that
man.
flicker
It's pretty
ring
cool.
type thing,
Yeah.
definitely.
I,
But
I
they
got
are expensive.
hold on, I think I got one handy I can show you guys.
I like the fact that Jason's actually growing with his campaigns, that as he gets one thing, he gets the hang of that, then he can add extra things in with
Right.
another campaign, and it's a learning process. We don't
It's a
have to
learning.
be factory perfected and all singing, all dancing straight away. We can get the core message done, the core comic, then add digital, then add merch as we go along.
Mhm.
Baby
I learned a lot
steps.
from that campaign.
Yeah,
How do you
One
eat
of
an
the,
elephant? One
I
bite
don't
at
know
a
if you
time.
can.
Ooh,
very
look at
nice.
that.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
see if you
Nice
can
3D effect on that.
change
cool.
his outfits.
Is that's lenticular then?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
one of the lenticular prints.
Very
Kind of
good.
moves. It's got depth to it. 3D effect.
I
You know,
forget what
I was going to
campaign that's
mention
in
this
it, but that's where I
earlier.
was
I think
going.
the digital age, with working with digital, and I know some that work traditional and digital. I think when you kind of like Star Wars, if you have practical effects and you have CGI effects, if you can marry both together, then you get the best of both worlds.
Hybrid.
You know,
Excellent. Yeah.
I actually, and then if we can't have the CGI, I would rather do away with the CGI and go back to practical effects. There's something that with your mind, with the models and things, that looks more real than if you did it in a computer, no matter how much you put into the CGI. There's something that your brain says, this is just not quite real. And you can do some amazing things with it. But now with the digital, what I think brings into it is a 3D sensibility of design that a lot of, frankly, a lot of artists that go into comics that don't have really a broader sense of art history and what is out there. I'm not disparaging anybody, but very, very limited. They're like, I know Barry Windsor Smith, and I know, all these, okay, that's great. But do you know Monet? Do you know Matisse? Do you know Gustave Moreau? Do you know these other artists and the traditions and the Van Gogh and
Do you
Rembrandt?
know
Do
Al
you
Jarreau?
know
Do you
it's
know
all
Don
about
Martin?
layering with the digital and seeing different layers. And I think that's what the new digital technology brings to that. Plus, even back in the image days, the lens flares and the out of focus and the more cinematic look, the angles. A master of that was John Buscema. And I think, Kyle, last time I promised you next time you come on, I would show you some John Buscema originals. So
Oh, John
give me
Boosman.
a second.
Neoclassicist Buscema. Oh, to me.
Conan stuff, but from Savage Sword of Conan. But if you don't want to see it, I won't get it.
Oh well, don't be so hasty. Maybe we can do that sometime.
Okay, you talk amongst yourself, and I will unpile it.
Just gently twist your arm, as a Buscema fan. No, I think Shadowhawk, just back there, I think Shadowhawk, you were saying something about your audience can grow with you with this merch. You know what I mean? Jason's saying he's learning about it. I certainly am. Me, actually, I've just put together this indie comic promo for Lost Between Worlds. He hasn't paid me for it, but he gave me a book for review, so I thought I'll do my promo in return. You know what I mean? And that. Oh man, look at that.
Devil Flyer Ashcan. You don't have to start big, folks. You just have to plant a seed, and it will grow.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying, plant the seed, and like Shadowhawk was saying, actually, if your audience has got that elasticity to pay for a metal cover, then go with it. And like Jason said, he's gradually opening himself up to right. I've learned the core product, then I go digital, then I can perhaps do some merch for the next campaign, and there's no
and you can always grow as you go.
Grow as you go. There you go.
Yep.
I look at the Diaz brothers as a good example. I think their first campaign they started off like $13,000. Second campaign was about 17.5, something like that. Third campaign they went back, did a second Magic Cup, I think it was, and just about doubled their money.
Wow.
And they've been just about doubling their money every campaign, every time they put a book out. And they're on, I want to say going on 8 campaigns, might be going on 7 now.
So the consistent 8 campaigns, they're really putting themselves into it.
Yeah. And they're, they've kind of worked out a way to work the crowdfunding. Like every Monday, they'll drop sketch cards, limited edition. There's 4 of them, first come, first serve. Boom, scoop them up while you can. You get a boost on your campaign every week, right?
So like a schedule of working,
right.
Way of working, a schedule, yeah? Like if you're working for the man, you know what we mean by the man. If you're working for the man, you'd work to the schedule of your employer. So you figure that out for yourself if you're self-employed, I guess.
Right, but I mean, so I would guess that, Phil is getting sketch cards ahead of time, and then he's just blocking them out. Okay, I'm going to release this for this week, this for the next week, whatever. Yeah. And then he puts them up for like $30. They're not crazy prices or anything, but it's first come, first serve.
But it's a way to get custom art more affordable than paying £40 for a page of comic art. It's a way to access the potential market for original art without it costing people more than
also a way to keep an active campaign like at the top of the search.
All right, to juice it by keep adding little trickles of merch and sketches.
And if you have people buying just a little bit every week, even if it's only a book or two, it'll keep your book up there in the search.
In terms of revenue coming in terms of interest on social media, because people on social media, they need that stimulus, don't they, to keep relevant. You've got to be stimulating the audience almost daily.
Sure. Yeah.
All very nice. Hartnell and Troughton.
And it's a cool way to get a little miniature piece of original art.
You get a slither of that creator, don't you? You get a piece of them. Oh,
yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Because I mean, me personally, I've been collecting for over 40 years, but I couldn't afford to go to conventions and stuff and buy original art. But now, since I discovered Comicsgate and just promotions and what do I call them, auctions and different channels and everything else, I've made friends with so many artists and stuff, man, that my whole house is covered in original art just about.
Sweet.
Oh, very nice.
Mini comics. These are some that
mini
I
comics.
Comics.
Mini comics, is that a new thing? Mini comics.
Wrap around. No, that goes back to. Well, right now on eBay, I'm bidding on one that was in like vending machines that Marvel came out with.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Gosh, that was buried in my brain somewhere. That memory.
Mhm.
Yes, the little bubblegum machines where you had the little mini books or mini comics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
someone
they
say the
were
ash
sealed.
can. I can go smaller.
They were sealed to keep them closed. They had a little wax seal on there.
That's
that
it.
you
That little wax
yeah.
seal on them. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Gosh, that's going back some.
All right. Now I've gotten down to the John Buscema artwork. Ooh.
It's like a treasure trove looking into Momentum Rex's Star Trek window.
Oh,
Oh, here we
look
go.
at
It's going
Kyle's
down.
gonna have a mind
Somebody's
blown.
about to throw it to the mat.
Now I hope to do a book one of these days on and share this with the world. But yeah, some of the preliminary things he would do the layouts here, and then put it on a light box and
Yeah.
do the finals. And then it would
Yes,
be
yes.
sent off to be inked. But these are the preliminaries done by John Buscema.
So like layouts, rough layouts.
Yeah, these are preliminary layouts. Yeah.
Preliminary layouts,
This
yeah.
one, unfortunately, I did not catch when I moved, and it was in the heat. The bugs kind of got to it a little bit. They yellowed it a little bit. But yeah,
Wow.
these were the savage sort of Conan.
Wow.
He was born
issues.
to draw Conan, wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's certain artists
He like
like the Flash, Carmen Infantino,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
the Atom. Okay.
Certain
QT.
artists, certain characters.
Yeah, John. Yeah, certain like Sergeant Rock, Joe Kubert.
Kubert.
Joe Kubert, yeah.
Tarzan, you would say as well. But
Sol Buscema, the Hulk.
now I have more than just
Wow.
Conan stuff, but
Lovely.
by him. But
Yeah.
that's what I
Wow.
have handy. But
Wow.
look at the horse stuff, and
look at
what
the
he
energy
can
in it.
say in a few lines is amazing, especially the angles.
Yes.
He was a master at at the different cinematic angles and stuff.
Yeah. What size is that? Is that A3, A2?
Big, they're big. All right, let me do a comparison. Here's a page of my artwork.
Is that the size before they changed to?
That's got to be
the new
11 by
size?
11 by
17.
17, and this is larger than 11
Yeah, that's
by
like
17.
12 by 18.
Yeah, this is basically the same width,
Yeah.
but you've got about this much on top.
Yeah.
Wow.
And some of them may vary, and it's not a very high grade paper that he was using, but I mean, just how he did the child's face, and there he is.
You can see it there, can't you?
He's working in this particular issue. He's a blacksmith.
Yes.
Conan working as a blacksmith in that particular story. But this 17 by 11.
You sold the one with the with him on the horse on it, right?
What about the horse?
Did you end up selling the one with Conan on the horse? On the
splash
horse?
page where it's kind of on the horse in the middle. Yes, I did sell that one, but now I have it scanned.
Oh, here we go.
So good.
Splash pages I have actually in all this, and some of these are signed. Big. I mean, his signature's that big. I don't know if I have any of the signed ones here, but it's just good stuff. I mean, they've got pinholes in there where they pinned them up.
Yeah.
There was one where his children actually drew on the back of it, which is pretty cool. But you can go, and I had to, get the Dark Horse volumes and identify all these pages, and there's still a few pages I haven't identified. Most of these came out in the late 80s, early 90s, and Savage Sword of Conan. I've got a couple pages from the very last Savage Sword of Conan.
Okay, Kyle and Jason did
nice.
it.
I just I'm just transfixed, doing a bit of staring, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, no. I was just gonna say, does it make me weird to
to watch
when I get my original art I turn it over and look for fingerprints and ink blotches and all that kind of good stuff
Well,
on the
we
back.
view these guys as gods, and so to actually, if we almost want to check that they're human, and we see any slight imperfections, that just to pinch ourselves and check, are they actually human?
Oh, dude, I
Yeah.
do. Well, like a lot of the guys that I like, Rex will tell you, I call them ink slingers. They're guys that are not afraid of, you know, using the black ink and just splashing it around everywhere. So it's like I'll get an original piece, and you know, it's a little
Yeah.
crispy. It's got a little bit of wave to it. So, you know, you can see where some heavy ink went on and stuff. It's very cool.
Wow, look at that.
You got to press
This
them
is
out.
this is one of my favorites where they're underwater. You know, it's
Underwater, And John Boosman is just your guy to do an underwater scene. His artwork is so graceful and balladic, isn't it?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the master of gesture drawing. You know.
Yeah, he's superhero ballet. I mean,
How to
he's
Draw
so
the
graceful.
Marvel Way with Stan
How
Lee,
to Draw the
right?
Marvel Way, yeah.
I mean, how many artists did that influence?
Dude, I
Well,
accidentally
I still use
got,
it. I've got it my copy over there on the shelf.
accidentally got a bunch of his Savage Sword of Conan run. I think most of it.
I know a lot of people like Barry Windsor Smith, but I have to say, for me, when I think of Conan, I think of John Buscema. I think he stated it. Yeah,
seminal Conan artist, and he was definitely more prolific. You know, not that Barry Windsor Smith did not do some very nice work.
Oh,
very
yeah.
nice work.
Yeah,
I
Barry's
think by his own admission, he was quite slow and quite fried on the monthly book. But Buscema would, I don't want to use the term crank it out because it sounds disrespectful, but he could keep a monthly schedule after Stan Lee warned him after being late once. John, I like your work, but you've got to get the artwork in on time. And after that, he kept his deadlines.
Yeah. And I know he worked for Dell Comics. I've got a Dell comic that he worked on, which was a movie, The Shark Hunters, in 1956, I think. So he may have started at Dell. I'm not sure, but I do know that he worked for Dell early on. One thing that I'm doing innovative in it, I did a stream for 6 hours cutting these things out by hand. I'm using parchment paper.
Parchment paper.
For my sketch cards.
Oh, I see.
So, you know, that little
Rex
personal
is very polished.
So experimenting with paper types.
I mean, it's thin, you put it in a top holder anyway, so it's protected. So, you know, why not, you know, be a little different with the sketch cards, you know?
Parchment paper, is that more like kind of like a watercolor paper, like, you know, a bit
It's
more
like
thicker
something you would
textured?
do like calligraphy or something on very thin paper. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what parchment paper is, don't you?
The Constitution.
Yeah.
Stuff you cook on.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
That too. Yeah. I've got a roll of parchment paper next to the foil.
I make cookies on.
Yeah.
You're thinking of wax paper. No. Oh, here's one. Okay, so here.
Vellum. Vellum. What does vellum mean? You know, when they used to talk about vellum paper, are we talking about tracing paper, as we call it?
Oh, vellum.
Vellum's like tracing paper.
Yeah, like tracing paper.
I used to get confused about it. I thought, what do we mean about vellum paper? But it's tracing paper. Yeah.
It's like
it's stiff somewhat, but it's you know, it's
the really old Bibles used to have that real thin, almost yeah.
Is that one parchment paper, Memento Rex, that you just held up?
Yeah. Except that I inked it all where you can't see the parchment and did it in white instead of did it reverse.
Now, just a point to go back to something you said about experimenting with paper stock and stuff like that. I did a prototype of my comic book, and I went with Mixon, and I have to say I had to reach a local convention in about a week, so it had to be printed within 5 days. Within a week, and delivered to me within 5 working days to a week. And that they turned the book around and got it to me the day before the convention. I remember the box and opening it with a guiding light. And I have to say, I went with something like a kind of, what do you call it? Almost like a cardboard cover, you know, like a card. Yeah. Because I thought when I do I was very influenced in terms of paper style
a heavy cardstock.
Well, there was a book called Strange Heaven by Gary Spencer Millage, which is a cross between The Prisoner, Emmerdale, if you like your British soaps, and a Hammer House of Horror, Village You'll Never Escape kind of comic. Yeah. A brilliant independent comic, probably the best indie comic book in the world. I'd recommend it to anybody who's not read Gary Spencer Millage's Strange Haven. It's excellent, and it's taken the best part of 20 years to actually finish it. Actually, life got in the way and all sorts of things, I think. But the story's just recently been concluded. I've been trying to persuade Gary Spencer Millage by email to actually take it out the anthology book. Somebody else's anthology book that he got to actually finish the story and actually put it in the original independent comic book style to finish the series, because I've got all his independent comic books, but I'd like him to reprint it from the anthology that he chose rather than publisher, and actually create maybe just a handful of issues to actually finish the book independent comic style. But what he did, he had a heavier paper stock than Marvel. A heavier paper stock than Marvel, and he went heavier paper stock for his cover, heavier paper stock for his interior pages, and that I was always taken in by that. I thought, oh, he's charging similar prices to Marvel or slightly higher, but he's to actually make a differentiator, even though his work's black and white, black, grey and white. Actually, his differentiator for his work was quality paper stock cover, quality interior paper stock for the art as well, to give that kind of luxurious feel. So, when I was cooing about paper stocks earlier, there's a little bit to it as an artist, that you can put that knowledge of your paper types actually into your comic product and create a quality.
It feels good in the hand, doesn't it?
That's it, Shadow. It feels good in your hands,
and it smells
smell
good
it, feel it.
That, and I love opening up an old comic that hasn't been opened in a long time, and just stick your nose right in the middle of it.
We're getting down to it now, aren't we, Shadow? This is primordial comic love.
Yeah.
Amazing stories. Look at that one.
Cool.
1933.
Holy moly.
1933. Seriously.
Wow.
I have one from, I've been buying pulps recently, and actually going to use some of these covers in my comic as a backdrop.
Yeah.
And I was amazed that this was so large. It was more like, magazine size compared to the actual pulp size.
Well, comic books were bigger, weren't they, in the golden era as opposed to the silver era? They changed the size maybe to save on costs or something. I don't know.
Well, here's sort of a Bronze Age, which they downsized.
And they're even smaller now, man. Modern sizes.
I was very surprised to learn recently that Superman was not published on a monthly basis until quite late in its history.
I didn't know that, Jason. Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was quarterly and bi-monthly for a long time.
And Superman was on Action Comics #1, but didn't make another cover appearance for issue 9, and then not a while after that.
9 issues to appear again.
So he didn't immediately take off.
Again, another example of not an overnight success. We often think these things ignited straight away, and in relative terms, it takes a while for them to ignite and catch on. And
I disagree.
Come on, then, let's do it, Moment. Somebody disagrees. We can't have that around here.
Superman.
Not from autocratic Britain. We don't like people disagreeing around here. There's only one message in Britain.
Well, okay. I got you one right. I got you one right here. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to mess around with that. That looks like it could be very intriguing.
I disagree with this. What he just said, that Superman did not take off immediately. It did take off. You just didn't know it for 8 months later when the distribution. It sold 800,000 copies.
Really?
Out. It sold out immediately.
Yeah.
Within a year, you had Superman puppets, Superman toys, Superman lunchbox. You had everything, Superman. So it took off immediately. They just didn't know that's what was driving the sales immediately, because you didn't get those sales records until 8 months later. So that hence he didn't appear on another cover till about 9, and then after that they had some other covers, and then he started his in the teens somewhere. He started.
And then they went, that's selling. It's him. That's what's selling. That's what's causing the big sales.
Exactly, and they put him on every cover. Then after that,
Remember when it would take like 6 months to make an episode of The Simpsons or South Park? Now something can happen on Sunday and they can comment on it on Thursday's episode.
Yeah. And that's one thing that you've hinted on, Jason, is with the internet, it's so immediate. You can get immediate response, and that's invaluable to the creator. You know, I'd mentioned earlier with Devil Flyer, you know, people have been seeing Devil Flyer and going, and when they would see him in color in the gray and blue with the green, you know, energy costume, they were going, yeah, but that really doesn't, you know, his name. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got this cover, I'm still going to use it. That'll be a golden age cover because people have said, you know, again, feedback invaluable. Oh, John, your artist looks like a golden age artist, sort of retro. So I lean into that.
So
Why
lean
not?
into it.
I mean,
Right.
yeah. And I
All right,
wouldn't
so
really.
I hate to cut out early, but my daughter down in Texas trying to get a hold of me, so I gotta let you boys go. It
Oh,
was
awesome.
very, very nice talking to you both.
Yeah, nice
and
talking to you,
Rex,
Shadow.
Nice speaking
as,
again, Shadowhawk.
as
Take care.
usual.
Take care,
I will
Shadow.
see you
Bye.
tomorrow, my friend. All
I
right, have a
just
great
got
night.
in Nephilim Squadron. You get sticker, you get button. You know, again, you can make more than comics. That's the great thing about crowdfunding. Um, you know, and you can use those as stretch goals. If you don't make the money, you don't produce it. You know, I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it gives you revenue reach, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, some things that you can sell merch, if you want to call it that, you can charge a high price for. How scalable that is depends on what kind of merch you're offering, whether it's a badge, a T-shirt, a marquette, you know, those kind of statues.
and you
that
can
would,
look at. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can look at other campaigns and see what they charged,
Yeah.
yes,
and then see what your cost is going to be. And yeah, I mean, you have to. You know, I think that's why a lot of people fail, even in comic shops. I think the average comic shop lasts about 2 years. They don't have any business acumen about, you know, they're not treating it as a business, but you definitely need to treat it creatively and as a business.
Do you know what? To that, I would say amen. Because what is it? It's commercial art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't charge the right sticker
Jason's
price,
learning.
you're
You
going to
can
go out
see
of
the
business real
wheels
quick, aren't
turning
you?
in his head.
Well, I definitely get an F for the business side of Interplanet One, and
Well,
I mean it was kind of by design. I wanted to make it as good as I could, and I spent money to make sure every aspect of it was very good. Financially, it was disaster, but also it was a learning experience. And
As a
hopefully, as I
quality
go
piece
along,
of work, it shows. You can
well,
tell you
Jason,
cared.
Thank
you
you.
know, on the
And
Fire and
I think
Ice.
just to say Momentum Rex, I
Okay.
just want to give Jason a little bit of solace. I think
Okay.
it's right to do that with your first one because you create that space to decide how far can I push this?
Sure.
How much is it going to cost? Okay, you take a beating on the cost, but once you've got that baseline, you can think, right, where do I learn to make this? It's taken me a year. How can I then take it to quarterly? Because then I can start to make money. Then I can crank it to bi-monthly, like some of the Marvel comics where Daredevil was bi-monthly at once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can crank it to monthly. Look at Dave
Yeah.
Simon Gerhard. He was actually started off, I think it was quarterly. Then it cranked to bi-monthly. Then Dave's Gerhard came on his as a background artist. So that meant Dave Sim could actually spend more time on just drawing the characters and doing the lettering. So basically, they could, after they got used to working to one another and became more efficient, they could take those efficiencies into monthly schedule.
Mm-hmm. And then
Sorry,
also,
Momentum Rex.
also reusing and being creative with your, you know, okay, this was and getting the rights to, okay, that was a cover. It could be a T-shirt. You know, it could be a sticker, a magnet, whatever. And with certain artists, with their price point, I'd keep that in mind, you know, because it's like, okay, this is so expensive. How can I, or even when I commission them, it's like I commissioned John Dillard. He cost a little bit more. So I wanted him to do I wanted him to do an old style typewriter, you know, and for my content page. And then that way the blank page could be changed from issue to issue, and I can reuse that in subsequent issues, that same piece, and it still looks awesome. because it's,
Yeah.
a typewriter with so much detail in it. And I like to challenge him anyway. On the last 2-page spread that he's working on now, I said, I want an L train in Chicago going across 2-page spread. I want a train. So, and not every artist can do that or wants to do that.
No, but but it's good to challenge your creators. Are you going to do it all by yourself? Can you do everything? Are you going to flat your colors? Are you going to do color modeling? Color modeling takes longer to do than flat colors. Herge used to use flat colors in his Tintin, but obviously when you put different flat colors together in creative ways, you can create your own depth and modeling in flat ways. Yeah, because for many years we only had flat colors.
And if
but
you
then
work
obviously
all traditional, you can do like Shanth and Jetty. He's doing watercolor. I mean, so you can, there's, if you want a color comic, you can absolutely have a color comic. If you want, I know Apex, he makes his with color markers, and he's been doing it for decades, and it's so good, it's not streaky. But it does have that marker feel. It does have that homemade feel. He's the one that did those little mini comics.
I see. Yeah.
So there's absolutely, and if you have to go black and white, go black and white. There are certain genres, certain stories that need to be told in black and white, and then you can have a mixture. I've got Grave Tales in my book where the principal character is a psychotic clown, so he and his balloons are the only thing colored in the story till the very end, and then when he dies, he becomes black and white, and the world becomes colorful again.
Concept.
So that's color to help tell the story.
I see. Very interesting, though, actually, with the use of mezzotints and screen tones and letter sets. Back in the day, I think Dave Sims said that it could be very messy actually cutting this out and stick it on the board. And it would stick to your hands. You get grease or oils from your hands on it, and that creates marks on it. It's very typical, very tricky to keep it virginal looking, as it goes onto the original comic board. And now with something like you'd have to use Photoshop for this, not given recent onerous licensing terms, which I won't go into here, but something like Clip Studio or Manga Studios, it used to be called, you can actually just get the computer to bang in some screen tone with the fill bucket, and it's done in seconds. No longer does it take up to an hour or hours of work.
Well, Ralph Baskey's and what I was going to say a while ago, Fire and Ice, with Frank Frazzetta's Fire and Ice, on the commentary, they asked John Buscema, what do you think about, and this dovetails into what you said a while ago, we did a Jinsaki, which circles back to it, which is, what do you feel about Frank Frazzetta's work? And John Buscema very candidly said, well, he was a commercial artist, just like the rest of us. And that's heresy compared to some people, but you can't argue with that. He was a work for hire doing this stuff. Even though he did oil paintings, he did a little different, he was working in a medium that was not traditionally done a lot. I know that's one reason I respond to those Odell comics and those old Key comics, is they have painted covers.
Yes, the painted covers. I think if that's where you can do traditional media, if you can get an oil painting on your front cover, or acrylic, because it's a little bit faster to dry, and obviously you can, if you work a bit quicker, you can obviously get a bit further ahead.
I don't know Jason's Ackerman, but I mean, he could take a digital camera and do some design that he likes, collage, and photograph, sort of like the Sandman covers or the Doom Patrol covers, or where they use shadow boxes and put little, or the Aquamans, they had little shells or coral, or with some artwork. You don't even have to, have
those shadow boxes are a thing, aren't they? Because I've seen them. People actually make these as merch to sell, and you've got like these almost 3-dimensional shadow boxes of, I don't know, Iron Man or different characters. I mean,
with 3D printing now, that's amazing new dimension right there, just with 3D printing. People, I just saw a campaign where they made these little figures, and I'm sure they're probably 3D printed, and then you can cut out your headers, have them printed up or whatever, and then their little plastic bag, get a stapler, and you can do it all yourself. It's a gorilla.
I think Peter Samiti over at Alterna Comics has been doing a bit of figurine merch, but he's certainly not the only one doing it.
Yeah, right. yeah, with his King Cryptid. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
he's very innovative. If you want to see an innovator, he's I taken some of these old editions and he's upgrading them and
yes.
reselling them. I think
And,
that's
and
genius.
why can't
This
you
is-
do like a qualitative special edition of your old stuff? So you're reusing, like you're saying,
Mhm.
reuse ideas, so that way you can create extra revenue
Or
streams. I
combine
mean,
it into a trade paperback, you know.
or into a trade paperback. You've already paid for the work. Why not
Mhm.
put it in a different
Hmm.
vehicle and
Absolutely.
let it drive to a new audience?
Right. And you know, don't I mean if you're just a writer, and I put that just in quotes there, if you know, write a novel form and you might get a cover artist for the cover and there might not even be chapter artwork, but I mean then but you can certainly express yourself, you know,
Yes.
uh and tell the story that you want to tell. And you know, that was one thing invaluable with the chat. Hell, the chat, by the way. Uh, they give invaluable. They've given me names for characters when I've showed them artwork,
Yeah.
and I story ideas, and then they also give me advice about what to make, what they like to see on a campaign.
Yeah.
You know, well,
Listening
I
to
like
your audience
maintenance.
then,
Okay, well,
listening
you
to
like
people.
maintenance. You know,
Yeah. Fridge magnets, anything, magnets,
yeah.
bottle covers, whatever they suggest, you can
Because they're
explore it.
functional. You know, they're actually you can use them to post things on your refrigerator, some metal surface,
Hmm.
and that's why Amanda. And she was like, and I was thinking with the Devil Flyer story, I need to get something out. And at one point, I thought, okay, what I've released the first Ash Can. What if I released in 6 months' time two more books, the rest of the story in Ash Can form? And Amanda said, Rex, we just want a story. And that still speaks to me today. Yes, they want a story, they want a complete story. They don't want it chopped up. So it's like, okay. And so, you know, here's the prequel, you know, after the Ash Can that has the complete story in it that was done over 2 years ago. A lot of
Yeah.
this, a lot of the artwork, the artists have leveled up since then, like Doc Blaylock, but still, he worked day and night on my story, put his own comic book on hold, Pride,
Wow.
Blood, and Mud, to do my story for me. Worked 2 months. I know one night he fell asleep at the art table. You know,
Oh, above and beyond the Call of Duty,
yeah. I
immortal
mean,
duty. We like it
and
when we
you
hear
know,
about that.
I say go epic or go home. You know,
I'd say,
and yeah, I
speaking
will
my
not
language.
make my money back on this book. But I'm with you, Kyle. I'm with you, Jason. You put especially on your first book, your first complete book, you put everything in the kitchen sink in it. And
Yeah.
I've actually
Yeah.
thought about
That,
how can I work a kitchen sink into my comic
Yeah.
because
uh, and then how can I make that practical going forwards? Because you
yes,
learn from it and think, right,
and
okay,
one
go
part
on.
of that is reusing artwork,
Yes.
flopping images, or you know, I have him draw the bystander presenting like this, flop the image and having presented like that. You know, think in terms of printing and how can I get the most out of the artwork that I have on hand. Unfortunately, early on in mine, I backed a horse that couldn't run, that was crippled. He turned out to be have some pedophilia in his background, went to prison for it, and I can't use that artwork. Nobody wants it, but I
Oh,
can use it
geez.
for reference for other artists, you
Yeah.
know, because he did draw the likenesses, and it's sad because some of it was pretty good stuff. It's just he had a problem with delivering, and he had that in his background, you know. So I was kind of crippled there and lost out big time on that one with a false start. But
Yeah. Yeah.
in the
That's a
meantime,
bummer.
I got one book out, and we're putting out this book, and I'm still using what I commissioned him to do for reference for other artists, and it's so that it's not a total loss. So you can absolutely stumble and make mistakes, and that's why I say the community needs to come together greater and say, okay, this is where you can
For the
get good
greater good.
stock from. This is a good printer for stickers. This is a, you know, Shelby Robertson was saying that used to work for Image and does his own books and stuff. He said, uh, was it Printify or something? He was saying they're great on the books, not so much on the stickers. So that's
Yeah.
invaluable to know. Don't go to these for stickers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Quality. They do great on the books printing, but not the
Yeah.
Different suppliers have different strengths, and use each one accordingly. If your shopping budget is too expensive with one supermarket, try a different store. Go to one supermarket for your bread, another local shop for your eggs, another one for, I don't know, your soda.
I do the same thing with grocery shopping, especially a price point. When I'm over on that
me
side of
too.
town, okay, this store I always go to for eggs because they get the lowest price in town. Why would I? And then maybe occasionally, if I'm over here in this part of town and I still want eggs or need eggs for a certain thing, okay, I might pay a little premium because of the convenience. But I mean, yeah, you have certain stores that you buy certain things at, right? That
And if your insurance company is charging too much for your car insurance, you do your homework, you go around to all other guys, because obviously we know insurance companies are not going to give you loyalty prices. You know what I mean, for being loyal. They'll think, we can take them for granted. Let's put the insurance up by £100 this year.
Spoilers, everybody put their fingers in their ears except for the panels, because I don't want anybody really to hear this. I want to do an accordion style. I want to do a scroll style comic. I want to bust up the format of what you think is a comic. You think it's stapled, you think it's glued, square bound. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. Break the format. Do a circular comic, you know, that telescopes. I mean, think out of the box with these things. And people, if you think out of the box, people will come back. They will want more of it. They'll go, wow, that was a trip. You know, he's doing something that nobody else is doing. You know,
you're on fire tonight, Momentum Rex. You're coming down from the mountain here with tablets of stone. I mean, we're getting something a bit more progressive, I think, for the indie comics community to grapple with. And to me, why should it just be the way comics were made 60, 70 years ago?
And the scroll ideal, I mean, I've seen similar things, but as a child, I had a scroll coloring book that you could scroll out, and it was a long train with zoo animals, circus animals. You know,
it's like a little TV box. I used to wind it up, and then the little scrolling comic or scrolling picture would come scrolling past in a little TV toy box.
Yeah, and like you think about a scroll, you can roll that up and you can mail that in a tube. That's probably more effective than just using your mailers to mail with. So
your scroll comic could be posted in the same tube as your poster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, think out of the box about how is this going to be distributed, you know? You know, and I don't, you know, I know that shortages have been a thing. I know with the She Omnibus that Billy Tucci was wanting, like one of those ribbon, you know, put in ribbon bookmarks, but they weren't available.
Oh no!
During that time, they were shortage, and he didn't want to wait months and months and wait on getting the book. Get it out there, and then
learn from it.
You deliver, people will have faith in you, and you'll get reviews, and then it'll grow on itself. Like you said, it'll snowball over time. And if it doesn't, I'm still not giving up.
Good man. Glad to hear it. And it's the first one, isn't it? It's the hardest one.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, when you put so much into it and really you spend over a budget and you take the budget and you throw it out the window. Yeah, I mean, I know another creator that his wife was like, you can't do that anymore, you know, and that kind of.
Oh, I could totally imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this took too much of a toll on the family budget, and absolutely, when you know, I'm a bachelor, I can kind of throw the budget out and put everything in this. But yeah, I mean, just to do this book, it's like I'm putting everything that was developed most of all into this book, and a little bit more. If I had more money and more time, I would do it differently, maybe. But you know, for one thing, I had an elephant in the room. I had a 28-page or 29-page story that was eating up a lot of real estate. So then when I started adding the backup stories, they had to be short. You know, but that's why I did the prequel. Okay, let's get this long story out of the way, and then on the other subsequent issues, I'll have more space. to expound on those backup stories that I want to tell, which I think if I just did Devil Flyer, there's a little bit of interest. Plus, I do believe in John Malin's method. Build your channel, at least initially,
Yeah.
for a couple of years, you know, and then
Get an audience waiting for your comic.
And I sent out on Twitter. Now, some people might say that this is wrong to do, but I sent everybody, hey, sign up, it's here. Well, it worked. I got 60 the very first day to sign up for the book.
Wow.
I had over 100 in 3 days. So that told me there was enthusiasm for this. They've been waiting for a couple years like I have for it or more. And, you know, I've got about 60 backers now. So
that's fantastic.
And
if you're heading towards 100 of anything, you're doing all right, you know, to me,
Yeah.
because 100 comics at X price. And then what's Momentum Rex, Azrael, and Jason, what we're all wearing. And
yes,
and yet most indie comic campaigns, you will not see hats and t-shirts on them, and they're thinking, how can I make my goal, my funding target?
And
just a question.
Get original artwork. That helps the campaign too. If you can sell original artwork,
30 pages of interior artwork plus a sexy cover.
And it doesn't have to be big things. It can be bookmarks that you can do. It can be, you know, the trading cards that you can do.
Accessible original art.
Large artwork. Every little bit helps a campaign.
It's interesting now you say that, Momentum Rex, because I'm just thinking about how many artists work digital only now, and I'm thinking, why don't you do original artwork? Because you can sell it. That's an extra income for you. If you're charging £100 per interior page original art, if you get 30 pages of that in a month or in your quarterly schedule, that certainly helps your bottom line. So the rush towards digital only, I'm somewhat quizzical about. I'm not saying it can't be used as part of your workflow, digital. But I'm thinking, you know, original art. That's look at Eric Larson of Savage Dragon. He's got all his original Savage Dragon artwork stacked up behind him.
In mine, I've got both. I've got artists that work digitally, and then I, as a creator, it's like, if I'm gonna use this artist, he charges a lot more for the traditional and for you to own that than digital. So I often have went digital with even though some of my artists can do both, you know, it's just cheaper for me.
Oh, here we go.
Key ring, that's pretty cool.
Key ring, there you go. That's the type of merch.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's pretty neat.
That's pretty neat. Yeah. You opened that especially for us.
We're
honored.
Yeah.
Oh, look, he's got his in his.
Mine still unopened, right?
Still unopened.
Yeah,
that's the collector in Momentum Rex.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I bet he's still got his kind of Star Wars toys still in the original vacuum
well, I'm
seal
a
boxes.
big Pez collector. Got Pez. I'm a big Pez.
Oh, really?
You're a Pez collector.
On my next campaign, and you can definitely get custom made. I'll have to check into it and see how many units cost and what's the minimum. But I'm going to do a Devil Flyer Pez, and then if it's cheap enough or we do enough, I'll do the other characters as Pez, and they'll be official Pez. And Pez is a big reason the internet is around, or eBay is. eBay was started in partial because people wanted to trade their Pez. Pez goes all the way back to 1927 as a company.
Wow.
And they came out with tins. Pez is German abbreviation for peppermint. And they come out in little tins. The characters on the stems, do I have one here handy? And if I don't, bad on me. I'm sure I do. It's probably buried. Here's one. Okay. So Pez candy dispensers. So these came out in 1952.
1952.
The originals. They didn't have feet. They've got feet now.
Yeah.
Early 80s and late 70s, they came out with a thin foot that broke easily, so they went to a thicker foot. And
I remember eating out of a Woody Woodpecker one.
Is there a Woody Woodpecker one?
I'm sure I ate out of a Woody Woodpecker one when I was young.
Well, there's some debate on which was the first Pez character done. It's in between Mickey Mouse, Casper, or Popeye. And I tend to think it was probably Casper because he was roommates with the creator in college of Casper. But that's only speculation. Nobody ever really knows. It looked like originally, after they got away from the little tins that they had the candies in, in 1947, the first box regular looked like a Zippo lighter. There's only one known to exist, and it was found in the trash.
So it goes.
See, this is like Doctor Who. I like
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say
Doctor Who collecting, isn't it?
Doctor Who episodes.
That's
scarcity.
One in existence because this stuff was made to be thrown away.
Thrown away.
This because I like the other.
Momentum Rex, you know what I'm like. I'm a curious kind of guy. I think all the guys are curious. Jason, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to ask him this question. Momentum Rex, what is your favorite Pez?
Fat Ear Bunny, an Easter bunny that came out in the 70s and 60s and 70s. Believe it or not.
Is this an all ages bunny or is it an adult bunny? I mean, are we keeping it? You know?
It's got big, sort of shorter, fat ears, and they call it a fat ear bunny.
Oh, right, I see.
Yeah, and he's just so cute. That's my favorite Pez out of all of them, you know. And you can get him fairly cheaply because they made a lot of them for Easter.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. Why can't you have cute merchandise? You can have, even if you're comic serious, you can have. I mean, look at Carmen America. That has, what was it, by Iconic Comics, which has successfully straddled Japanese and American markets, which is like cheesecake meets Captain America meets manga, and there's no reason why you can't have humor in your merchandise or even in your story, even if it's serious based, and reach that extra audience that maybe likes an author who cracks a joke once in a while. It doesn't have to be an all-out comedy, but
for sure.
Do you have a favorite Pez, Jason?
I've seen there's a store that has a whole bunch of collectible Pez, and they have this really cool set. I think it's like Revenge of the Sith, just like a set of all the characters.
They do sets, box sets.
That's pretty neat. That's very tempting.
They did Lord of the Rings. They did the little dwarfs, little mini ones, and Snow White. With Snow White.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah. I haven't actually had a.
They did. Now in the early '90s, the first lifelike. They've done Mozart and his wife. They've done all the presidents up to Barack Obama. They've done the presidential seal. They also did like hockey pucks, basketballs, footballs, different teams. I mean, it's exploded over the last few decades. Used to you didn't get a lot of new models. You don't go by dates on those. So if you get a Charlie Brown and it says 1952 on the back, that's copyright. That's not. They go by patent numbers. I've got an actual Pez chart that goes up to the 90s somewhere.
You've got a Pez chart?
Pez chart.
I feel like I'm missing out. I've been in this other universe. And now I have a favorite Pez. It's Yoda. But I'm now thinking maybe I want a Jack Kirby Pez.
I made Fantasy Pez on YouTube and made a living at it for 2 years.
Really?
And then they kicked me off for about 20 for copyright.
Oh.
I just got back maybe earlier this year or late last year under my real name on eBay.
I mentioned that
because of a copyright violation with Pez.
Yeah.
I was making Fantasy Pez and still using Pez in my titles, and I was trying to comply, but they kicked me off.
Maybe use the word Fez instead.
Yeah,
F-E-Z.
I could have said this is not a Pez in the title, and they would have been fine with that.
Really?
But I made Fantasy Pez. I don't know if I have one up here. I've got so much buried here.
Momentum Rex, is this legal before you show us?
Yes, it's actually a Grinch that stole Christmas, and now they've done Grinch. There's a lot of characters like Woody Woodpecker that have never been made into a Pez. I'm sorry to tell you, I've never seen a Woody Woodpecker.
I'm almost sure I at one growing up a Woody Woodpecker Pez. So this is a yeah, as they used to say on Winner Takes All in the 1970s. We've got a difference of opinion here, Jeffrey.
That just shows you the faulty memory over age, you know.
Well, maybe.
You know, I'll die on that hill, but yeah, I mean, if maybe.
Well, you're certainly the Pez master. I can't argue with that. You certainly have authority in that area.
You know, I don't know if this one's real or not with the original stem. I can't remember. I'll have to look. But now this is their Pez mascot, Peter Pez. And this is the later, this is not the early version. This is the more robust looking, you know, fat, cheap version from the 70s, 80s. But there's now this is what an insert looks like. Sometimes clear. They can be in color too. So this is a fantasy Pez, a stem switch that I made. I took the head off a stem, and then I put it on this insert to make a no foot. And then here's one. He did not come in white, but it, you know, for a better color combination, I put a white one on there. Another stem switch. They would not have a problem with stem switches on eBay because they made both parts. But I was putting stuff on there like, you know,
I'm thinking of a Darth Maul Pez with like Sith red sweets inside it.
Oh, here's a couple.
That's kind of what you kind of planted in my head. Oh,
this is.
Oh, yeah. They must have made one.
And this probably you don't. Well, see, it would work.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was a Diva set, part of a Diva set, part of 4, and I took these off little toys and put them on Pez stems, and that was my best seller right there. Was a little Diva set of girls.
I see.
You know.
So you're making your own Pez creations.
Yeah, and when they put the kibosh on me, I was not buying Pez then. See, I was buying them for the stems. I was buying tons of Pez, and then they put the kibosh on me. Now they have a Pez monitor, and that's due to me on eBay.
You know that yeah. Do you know that? Isn't that strange how you can affect the universe by pulling on it? Yeah,
absolutely. There you go. There is. I paid $45 for this. You know, maybe about 15, 20 years ago. I don't know, but that was a homemade Grinch that someone sculpted and painted.
Homemade.
Yeah. And it's got more detail and looks more like the original cartoon than the one that they did around the John Kerry movie, that the remake. Yes. They did him, the dog, and the little girl from Whoville in a set. But
it goes to show you that passionate niche where they can take it to the next level.
Original Star Wars for you there, George Lucas.
Oh, yeah.
He was so cool looking, I had to keep him. He's got the translucent body.
Yeah, anything with translucency in it is cool. Remember the Micronaut soldier robots?
Micronauts were cool.
Oh, yeah. You know, they had translucent and marbleized stems in Pez in the 60s, real psychedelic. Plus, they had mod stickers that you could stick on them, and they had die-cut stems. I had Casper, and they had like Mickey Mouse that had die-cut stems that you could see the sleeve, the inner sleeve, going up and down in it, you know, because it's got a spring in there. So very cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is that. Go on, Jason.
Sorry. I mentioned that this is the weekend of Necronomicon in Providence. I think the Pez factory is around there, Providence, Rhode Island. They have billboards for it, and you're driving up there to Rhode Island.
Gecko lizard.
Yeah.
That's a promo.
And this is an opportunity, isn't it, for your indie comic, for Jason's indie comic, for Mentum Rex's indie comic, anybody's indie comic. If you know the Pez people make Pez merch, why can't you take advantage of that for your own comic? Get your own voice out there, celebrate the Pez. I mean, I remember eating Pez. I could actually just demolish Pez after Pez dispenser. One was never enough for me.
Sure. Yeah.
See, I would take like this, which is just something you put on your car antenna. Yeah. For you people that like NASCAR, and I would put it on a Pez stem, and I would make my own. And this was before they have now a NASCAR series. In fact, a lot of people say that they took a lot of my designs and stole them and used them. And I do believe that because they're so close. I had a rubber ducky. Now they've got a rubber ducky Pez. Here's an alien that I had an alien, and that was an antenna topper that I would just put on a Pez stem. And
so you're modding Pez stands?
I guess that's above my pay grade, Kyle.
Well, again, in the 3D computer game market, like games like Doom and stuff like and Quake and Half-Life, a lot of things like Counter-Strike came from, I think, from modding the original game with different skins. So you can create basically different genres. And what you're doing with Pez is creating different genres from the original concept of Pez.
Oh yeah, I had a hammerhead shark, and it was a pen. It was these pens that actually working pen that. I mean, and I would do backdrops like, okay, I've got a hammerhead shark. I got diver Pez. So I would go out and I would get a little plastic treasure chest and some coral shells and a backdrop. And that's how I would photograph it. So it became a very cinematic thing to sell my one-of-a-kind Pez with, fantasy Pez, And I got from real Pez collectors, they're like, "That's not real Pez. You're fake. I hate you."
That moment from the body snatch at the end where they do the kind of finger points.
Pod person.
Yeah,
you're a pod person.
No,
it sounds like it was being a Pez throwdown onto the mat.
Lift off and cross.
Yes,
but better than a face hugger.
Better than a face
hugger. Are you going to go see Romulus?
Me? Since
Are
I was
you
told
excited about the new Alien movie?
Well, I might be. Here's how it is with me and the cinema. For several years, I don't want to get too deep into this for personal reasons, but for several years we were told to stay at home. Yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, now that everything's magically gone back to normal and there's magically no more whatever it was that was supposed to be, now you want my money.
Magically, yes.
He looks cute. So I'm thinking, maybe I don't go to the pictures. Maybe I don't give you my money. It's called voting with your wallet, you know?
That's been the stab in the back. Look, we don't talk about as society. Maybe Judas or Benedict Arnold are the big.
And all those coins of silver that were taken.
Yeah. In DC Comics, they actually made Phantom Stranger into Judas.
Oh, yeah.
He's got those silver coins around him now. He didn't originally, because that's a character that goes all the way back to the 50s. A lot of people don't know that. Phantom Stranger goes all the way back to the 50s.
He's got that pulp look about him, hasn't he?
They did Trinity of Sin, and it had three principal characters. There was the Question and Zealot from Image, because they bought that character, and Phantom Stranger. And he turned out, and even in the climax, they had them all crucified up on crosses. They weren't nailed, but they were roped, in the final conflict.
The symbology was there.
A very interesting story. And they made him to be Judas, cursed to be immortal, walking the earth. I thought that was pretty interesting pivot on an old character that's been around since the 50s.
For sure, yeah.
And sometimes you've got to reach those boundaries. I mean, you talked about The Sandman by Gaiman. It was very popular at the time, and I remember, while I wasn't as enamored with Gaiman as a writer as some people are, I did like the work of Mark Hempel, whose work was very, very graphic. And I did like the way the covers were being pushed. Who's that guy who did almost like the photo style covers?
The Punisher? The guy that did the light?
He did the Joker.
Ross?
He did the Joker art for Sane Asylum. What was his name?
Brian Bottom?
No. It was really almost like photoreal, sort of like all painting style. Now I've got to know.
Arkham Asylum.
Right, here we go.
Right, what's his name?
I've got to look now on Google.
Like that?
Yes, Dave McKean.
Yeah,
that's it. I was at the United Kingdom Comic Con convention when the original of that Joker Asylum art was auctioned, and it went for about 3,000-ish at the time. I remember being there and seeing it. It looked stunning. About A2 in size, something like that, A3, A2 in size. A gorgeous piece of original artwork, but it was actually auctioned at the United Comic Con convention back then. We're going back several decades now. and somebody picked it up for $3,000, and probably a bargain back then at that.
Yeah, really.
Well, that's when you could pick up a Jack Kirby piece of original artwork for £50.
Yeah.
Or Tales of Suspense 39 for £400 mint, because I had it in my hands. I wish I'd have bought it.
Well,
Oh, I
in
think-
1985, I went to Chicago, and the top dollar on original artwork, even for John Byrne, because I bought the Avengers heads that would be up in the Ditko box.
Yeah.
I bought that piece where it was just the heads of the characters done by John Byrne. $60. What would that be worth today? And that artwork has been used again and again. I got
enough to make you cry
with it on there. Huh?
And George R.R. Martin said that Marvel would send you original artwork if they published your letter in the back of a comic book.
Yeah, sometimes.
Insane.
Yeah,
Jeez, man, that's insane.
And that's a good thing, because a lot of that was shredded, destroyed. That's why it's collectible.
Sure.
Well, apparently, do you know the original artwork to the Hulk #1 cover? I was informed that they actually cut up Jack Kirby's artwork to original Hulk cover #1. I know. I almost held my head in my hands. But this dealer, I went to the MCon in Nottingham a couple of months back with my niece, and she took me there, and that we kind of went. I drove her there and that, and paid for the ticket and all that. Do what an uncle does and all that business, yeah. And we had a good look around in that. But I actually got speaking to some dealers, and they informed me that the original artwork for the Hulk cover was actually cut up for a house ad. That's how disposable they viewed original artwork for comic art back then.
Yeah.
So the Hulk #1 was cut up for a house ad. Mother of God, have mercy. That's brutal, man.
So to have a key piece like the color separation to a key issue like Avengers #4 is rare. It's one of a kind.
That's one of a kind.
Wow.
That's your retirement plan right there.
Captain America's, and this has been printed again and again. It will continue to be printed. What's the work on this? Probably less than original artwork, which is sad because it's production artwork. This stuff was destroyed, and yet this is so rare. This is one of a kind, and it's amazing. And this stuff was not widely, even original artwork was not collected till about 1982. Yeah, was when people said this stuff could be collectible, because
I think in the early 80s people started waking up to it. People started collecting then, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and one or two thought by getting ROM and Dazzler #1 that they'd be rich, but like you said earlier, these things were rare from the 50s and 40s, because
and back
people
then you could, I wanted to get, when I went up there, I said I want to get, because I'm in an area where you can't get it, okay, and there wasn't the internet. You had to do mail order, so I wanted to get Golden Age comics for the very first time, which I did. And not only that, I got some rare early 50s Atlas that had, because I looked in the price guide and I said, oh, this run and this run has Human Torch and Toro, Captain America and Bucky, and Submariner in it, all in one book. So that's the ones I went up there to look at. There was one dealer had 4 issues out of the 5 that I wanted, and the next year I got the 5th one, and there was 3 dealers that had that one. And so I got a complete run. And John Buscema Sr., and I actually wrote an article on this that was published, my first published story, was how I met John Romita Sr. And this was after his death. This is all. And Glenn Fleming, that's over there in the UK. It's issue 13 of Comics Unlimited. How I met John Romita Sr. and his wife, Virginia. And I said, could you sign these? And he did. He opens it up and he's like, look, Virginia, it was his early Captain America stuff, some of the earliest stuff he did for Marvel Atlas, right? Yeah. And he was like, we were dating when I was doing this. He had not seen it since he did it in the early 50s. So cool.
So there's history for him and history for you.
For him, and just to watch him go, look at this. Yeah, and just relive those memories and talk to his wife about it,
We view them as gods, but they were just mortals trying to make a living.
Right, yeah. And that really helped me in, like, when I started YouTube. Not only that, but public speaking in church and other places like that. The prisons, I did prison ministry, and I gave lectures or whatever talks. Not really lectures. I don't like that word, but and also worked with the homeless, and I had to speak with them, in the homeless shelters and stuff like that. So, but when you come on here, and I have Mike Barron and Steve Rude and other what we consider greats like that on this show, people are like, how do you do that? How do you talk to those people? They're just people, and you got to learn that.
I'll tell you what, that's very interesting that you've had that rich background in prison ministry and the homeless people, and your personable qualities. It kind of remind me of another person who runs a very good YouTube podcast, and that's John's Lombox. And whether he's got Jim Shooter on his show or Mark Miller, he's very down to earth, almost like he's just a guy going into a comic shop and arguing about who would win in a fight, the Hulk or the Thing, or Thor versus Hulk. How's it going to go down? And it's just that being personable and just being yourself and learning to relax is certainly a message I could certainly take on board, because sometimes as artists can be very pensive and sensitive and shy creatures,
And Steve Rue was kind of like that. He's like no BS, And then if you ask him a question like, so how did you meet Mike Barron? He's gotten that a million times. You got to think out of the box and ask, and come prepared. And usually with an artist like that, I have a list of things just as reminders to, most of it, like today, I just do improv, as it comes to me.
You get good at doing it. If you work with people in a rich way, you get used to how to access people and see where they're coming from, and it's about building bridges and finding overlap, because we're all here. We're all creators of one type or another.
And there's a lot of people that struggle with streaming. I mean, I've contacted some other people just like yourself saying, hey, would you like to come on? And they're like, well, how I really struggle, and there's some that's I've never gotten on and probably won't get on because they don't do the YouTube thing very well, which is
and that's the thing with this Star Trek technology. You and me and Jason, we're speaking thousands of miles apart. It's seismic. It's live video, isn't it? It's broadcasting. It's like you're being, I don't know, any of the CNN, MSNBC or Fox News. We're doing that with cheap technology now, but that's accessible. And just think about the order of magnitude of that message being able to reach across a continent, to the UK, to Europe, to Japan.
In a way, it's reality TV.
It's reality TV. And what do people want? They want one word. Here's what comic fans want. They want authenticity. They want to believe. And the creator if a creator can offer the singular, unique voice, the USP, and put it out there passionately, even if it takes 3 years, that is the place to start from. You'll build your tribe from then. You only need 1,000, Jason. You've already got 1 or 2, and you've already got a number, and that's his magic number, because you know what? You can build on it, and everyone you get is killer. I call it the power of one. Every single guy or gal you pick up, no matter what their age or background, or what continent, or what place on planet Earth, you're telling me that we can't get 1,000 people from a planet of 8 billion people. And it's not just that. As when I was on Eccentrics, here's Shadowhawk Talks. If you want success in indie comics, build a channel, talk to people. They want to back you no matter your subject matter. Amen, Shadowhawk.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He said it shorter than me, but he's right.
And like I say, you can definitely have politics in your comics. It's just don't get preachy with it. And if you want to get with it, you can. Maybe people want to hear that message. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but you can definitely. We each have a worldview, and it's unique to each of us. And if we just share that worldview in, transparency, open and honest, and be authentic and genuine, like you're talking about, we'll find that niche artist. And like you say, we don't need necessarily even 1,000. You know, if you've got 400 or 500 diehard fans, um,
And they
and
buy most of what you make because they
if
believe
you
in you.
can't do lenticular covers the first time, that's fine. You'll build up to that, hopefully. You know,
Yeah.
the marketplace will decide ultimately. But like Stephen B. that I mentioned, he had 25 that he made, and what's brilliant is he's continued that to his third cover. They're all interlinking. It's set in a library, and the background is a library.
Cool.
So he just
Ah,
continues the library to each cover. And I said,
right.
please continue that. That's brilliant. And he did the full covers. My favorite enhanced cover is the rainbow effect, sort of hollow full covers. And that's what he did on those. And he didn't do a lot of them, 25 print
What's
on
his name?
demand.
You'll have to DM me him. I'd like to have a little look at that. I want to know a
Okay.
little look.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds cool.
please,
Okay. He's
because
also
that sounds
working on
really
another
cool.
project called Rev. And he's leveling up. He's one of those that, you know, if you just take a chance on, and often Samuel, if you'll see it through and allow people to make mistakes and grow, who knows what they'll become. They could become one of the, you know, when I came on the scene, people said, you're just a writer, because I was commissioning everybody, and
Yeah.
they didn't think I worked, but I
That
do
was a
my
bit
own
like somebody calling an inker a
my own
tracer.
artwork. I
That's
do my
gotta
own
hurt.
designs. I
No,
design
it's all
my own
right. Do you remember that scene out of Chasing Amy where the guy gets called? Yeah, you say you're an inker, but you're just really just a tracer. Some guy was trying to goad him at the convention. Yeah,
uh-huh.
have you watched Ben Affleck's Chasing Amy?
No, I have not.
I think
Long
Jason
time
has.
ago.
Long time ago, me too. But if you
Yeah.
get a chance to see it, Momentum Rex do, it's quite funny because this guy at a convention, obviously, you know, you've got Ben Affleck. He's the pencil on the book Chasing Amy. Yeah, they're working on this comic, cult indie comic book, which is doing quite well. Not everybody knows about it, but it's making good money. We're talking about creating a market of 400, 500 people who buy all this stuff. Yeah, and Crypto Legends, Bold Cat to Cuts. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, he has a channel. If you've got some links there, Shadowhawker can find them. Please drop them in the chat for Kyle. Uh, or yeah, maybe you could do a search. He's definitely on YouTube. Got his own channel. Does
Got you.
digital artwork, but he does. I think he does traditional as well. A lot of these people like Hex Allen and Bobcat Studios, they don't have a big budget, so and I'm in awe that they can do digital stuff and do digital coloring and flatting and stuff, because I don't do that. I just work traditional if I do anything. And then if I want something done, like my postcards that I was holding up, I made those and made this first one from scratch art, which you can't erase on that.
Ooh, scratch art. I remember playing with that when I was young.
Scratch art.
Mhm.
Well, I like the line quality, almost an etch quality. So
Yeah,
I
Etching quality,
produced these
like
back in
in the rainbow.
2016, Momentum Comics back then. And but now this one, we digitally, you know, put a drop shadow in there and did some stuff. And this is
Yeah.
scratch art too, but we reversed the image and then added the background and things like that.
Yeah, I see.
So
Yeah.
you know, you can sit down with somebody that does know it. Right now, I'm building a website and working with Ray Haylott, uh, who's in Australia, to learn some of this technical gobbledygook, you know. Uh, but if I can do it, I know anybody can do it.
Yeah. Well, that's the way I view it. You know, when just this idea of promoting people through the 5 pillars of storytelling with,
Okay.
you know, art, comics, movies, games, and toys. My idea isn't just to, what's that analogy that we use out of a certain famous book? You can actually just keep going to somebody for a fish, or you can teach somebody how to fish.
Exactly.
And then that way they think, oh, I can market myself. That I'm trying to get the idea across that you can do it too. Yeah. There's one book at the moment called Baylor by a guy called Peter, and he's a writer on his book, and he's got an artist working with him. And his project for the third crowdfunder, after the first 2 succeeded, the third one failed. And you know, I reached out to him positively and said, listen, you know, maybe your trailer needs to feature the book. It's nice that you're in the trailer, but rather than you explaining everything, show people, yeah. and he's taken a pause and he's come back, had a little think about what went right, what went wrong. He's dropped the target price just a little bit because he already had about 1,000 Irish euros ready for funding. He was only a couple of hundred short. So basically, he's had a think, rejigged it, and has come back swinging. And he's around about 90% funded with 8 days to go. And I've given him a push, but last week I've kind of stood off him. And he's really got into it and promoting stuff and trying different ways of trying to sell it via an X tweet or X or Zweet, whatever you call them these days. And I tell you what, he's really getting the idea of marketing now. You know what I mean? He's got more pep, more energy into it. And he's seen his success in digital marketing. He's got more, well, I'd say aggressive with it, but you have to turn up, otherwise you don't win a prize.
Yeah.
You don't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. You know, you have to buy a ticket.
While we have been speaking, on eBay, I won a book set that I did not know existed because I've been looking into this recently. Marvel Comics mini books. They actually have a mini book set that you can get, and yay, I won it for like, nothing. Various prices on there. But it has facsimiles of the actual little mini books there, and you can see them down there. Look at that.
Not seen them before.
No.
Wait a minute. Those are the little mini books. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I remember those.
48 came out in 1966 in different colors. Yeah.
Wow.
They all came out in different colors. So this is a facsimile set, and I think they have put out by Abrams here. So pretty cool.
They are cool.
And you don't have to spend a fortune on like the little original gumball,
No.
But that looks like Marie Severin Hulk somewhat.
It does. It does somewhat, yes.
She might have did the artwork for all these. Really, it kind of looks like her stuff.
I liked her Hulk. Probably after Sal Buscema, she'd be one of the Hulks I'll be looking at.
Yeah, and on the right, where you open up the book, right in the center, there was a little bit of wax seal that kept the book closed.
Oh yeah,
48 pages. These are the smallest, to my knowledge, of Marvel comic books that came out.
Yes,
they were little novelty items, but pretty cool stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got some classic Spider-Man stories in paperback form. I mean,
I used to love
cut up the original, put some panels on a paperback size.
The Doctor Strange, they reprinted in novel form. The early Ditko Doctor Strange. That's where I love Ditko and the Doctor. It's early, stuff. And then also they would have novels that came out with full painted covers that really grabbed me. And some of those later were made into comics. From those scripts. So that's kind of neat. They first started out as novel and then became comics. I know they did that with like a Hulk Man-Thing story, and they also did that with an Ultron Avengers story.
Yeah. Well, my eyes are getting blurry, gentlemen. I think I need to sign off. I've reached my maximum screen time for the day.
Yeah,
Jason, before you go, it's nice meeting you. What can you share any plans about where Interplanet is going to go in future? In terms of have your ambitions been tickled by the first one? Obviously, you've got using the same colorist. You've got a potential new artist who can perhaps deliver work a bit faster. What are your plans going forwards for Interplanet that you can share? Are you going to get some merch going, a lenticular merch for the next one, or just a hat and t-shirt? What lessons have you learned from the first one? I would sort of ask.
Oh well, as far as lessons go, I mean, I learned about the power of YouTube. I started a YouTube channel a few months ago. The focus isn't always on comic books, but sometimes it is, and trying to build my channel, trying to learn how to make it interesting, talk about topics that are interesting to me. In addition to comic books, tiki bars, movies, James Bond, stuff like that. Yeah, and I'm focused on trying to make the scripts really good.
Yes.
I feel like it's got to be The Empire Strikes Back. It's got to really take the story.
This one's going to be the jewel in your crown.
I hope so. I think I've come up with some good ideas to take the story in places people would not predict. I think it's coming out pretty well. And so, the cover for Interplanet was done by Tony Tyler. Did a fantastic job. I've been talking to him.
Tony. I mean, I know of his work. He's got like 5-6 campaigns, engine and other stuff on Fun My Comic. He's a beast.
Oh wow, I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, he puts it up there, and it slowly funds. He just puts it up there in like storefront, but he puts up a bunch of projects and works on them simultaneously.
All right, big wheel turning. So you're going to use him for your next cover then, Jason?
I definitely would like to, and I want to start talking to him about producing some artwork so I can start promoting Volume 2 ahead of time, because I didn't do that with Volume 1. And so
all about the pre-sale this time, more like those people are trying to get the sign-ups done, so you get the anticipation and the kind of people excited about it.
Let me give you a hint. I have Russ Leach working for me, and it didn't cost me a penny. I've got the Jimmy Reyes cover. Didn't cost me a penny. Now, when I say that, not cash out of hand. Traded him. I traded both of them, some of those John Buscema originals. So you can always trade. If somebody likes it, and you've got stuff like that, or a book or something somebody wants, trade for the artwork. You don't always have to be money out of hand.
Bartering. You're saying like bartering, yeah?
Yeah, barter. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been too much of a collector. I don't know if I have anything, but yeah, if that was an option.
Isn't that a big piece of original art he's got involved there? That would be a hell of a trade. I mean, you had to get the next 2 issues of Interplanet drawn with that. That looks like a big piece of artwork.
Jason, real quick, 30-second pitch. What is Interplanet about?
Interplanet is a story of a medieval planet ruled by evil wizards, and what we'll be visiting for the first time in Volume 2, a very super futuristic planet. And they're in the same solar system. They have a Cold War. Both planets are crawling with spies from the other side. And I think that's kind of the elevator pitch.
Or did you overprint and still have some copies of it?
Oh, I've got lots of copies. Yeah.
You got lots of copies. All right, hit me up. I'll get a copy tomorrow from you.
It's on I have a storefront thing going on Fund My Comic, so that's an option for people. Thank you.
So you got
and thank you for having me on. So
cool elevator pitch, and nice to meet you, Jason.
Yeah, great to see you face to face, Azriel.
And thank you for coming in early. I wasn't expecting you till 4, but I'm glad. Yeah,
glad it happened.
I was confused. Yeah, I thought you originally meant 5 Eastern time, but I wasn't.
I'm not afraid of double billing. I think the more the merrier sometimes.
All right. I was going to be late.
Love the Piggly Wiggly hat.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good hat for you too.
Piggly Wiggly is a grocery chain, Aaron. Kyle.
I'm saying Aaron because I didn't realize that. I see. Yeah. So it's like a grocery chain in the States, yeah?
Mm-hmm. In the South, I believe.
In the South, back in the day, they had spinner racks.
Spinner racks.
Full of comics.
If I start streaming, I want a spinner rack. I don't know why I want to do that. I can put all the indie comics on it.
I've got 2. I've got to pull them out of storage, fill them up, and send them back here, and be the envy of everyone. I already got them.
They're about $400 each or something. They're not cheap.
Well, I bought them back in the 80s, so I've had mine for a while.
Yeah, I've considered looking on eBay. I didn't realize they were that expensive.
Yeah, they make more modern things. Yeah, they'll run you a good little bit. Of course, you can do the stair stepper. Now you were talking the spinner racks, but there's other ways to display comics. that they did.
I'm looking at Jason's hat now and seeing Interplanet on it. I don't know why I'm seeing that. There you go, another free plug.
No, I love that idea.
I thought about going with Shopify
and a hoodie. It'd be real sexy on a hoodie.
there's places like Shopify, but I'm working with Ray to get my own website
Oh
to
yeah.
put like the t-shirts, the caps, the beanies, the things that people like. I think
Yeah.
you don't have to put it all on the campaign.
No.
If you have another site you can go to and direct people to, that's just as good,
And different outlets are different audiences, so it amplifies.
Yeah, and you're dealing with this company over here and there, and I can't wait to make jigsaw puzzles for my mother, who
Oh,
just
jigsaw
turned,
merch. That'd be cool.
on the 15th, just turned 89.
Oh wow.
God bless her.
Yeah.
She's a little bit older because I'm adopted. My birth mother's not as old as she is, but yeah. But
God bless her.
okay, we'll all get out of here because I think I'm supposed to meet with Ray. If you're ready to go, Kyle, I don't want to run you off.
No, you call it. You're the host. You call it.
Okay. Then if somebody will say keep collecting, we'll get out of here.
Keep collecting. Out there.
God bless you. Nice speaking to you, Momentum Rex. Thanks for having me on again, and nice to meet you, Jason.
Yes,
take care. God bless you all.
I am
same sentiment from me as well.
Did not keep you hanging like last time.
Good night, everyone.
That down. Absolutely. Bow for now. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great rest of the weekend. Have a great week next, and be careful out there while teaching.
Yeah, you got to be.
No kidding, everyone. Heathens out there. I tell you, man, they'll nip at your heels.